Welcome in. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show on the air today. On this Wednesday, Packers back on the practice field today, getting ready for the incoming Mike McCarthy-led Dallas Cowboys, and just trying to figure out a way to put the train back in the tracks in some way, shape, or form to salvage, I guess, respectability regarding the remainder of the season. Just a tough way to go right now. I mean, I know yesterday Aaron Rodgers said he's just got to kind of muscle up the intestinal fortitude, the championship fortitude and the competitive fortitude, and just try to do what you can, try to move on. It was interesting. I was yesterday. If I sound a little off today, I am definitely under the weather, no doubt about it. Just an FYI. So if you're tuning in and you're like, hey, that's not Bill Michaels. Yes, it is. Just not great, I guess, feeling wise today. So anyway, yesterday I'm standing in line and I am talking to a few people. I was standing in line waiting to vote. And all of the discussion was about the Packers. All of the discussion was about whether or not the Packers were going to be able to, dig their way out of this. What are they going to do? And it is, it's not a lot of hope. I mean, it's funny because there was a lot of talk about whether or not OBJ would actually end up in a Packers uniform if he passed a physical and was ready to come back. Now it looks as if Jerry Jones is trying to woo him to Dallas, to end up in a Dallas Cowboys uniform before it's all said and done, because he believes that that might be the best place
for him to get an opportunity to be able to go ahead and get a win and another championship there. I don't know what's going to happen in that particular regard, but nevertheless, the Cowboys coming to town. Ben, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. I guess I'm doing better than you.
Yeah, I yesterday afternoon, it's one of those things where you start with like a little sinus drainage and you find yourself going a lot. And I was standing in line, and I felt pretty much okay. I was running around yesterday. I had some errands to run. The key fob in my car, the battery had gone dead, so I ran over to Batteries Plus. I was getting that changed. I got home last night. I felt pretty good, and I went downstairs and I worked out. And I came upstairs and it was just my throat was scratchy and I had a ton of sinus drainage. And I get this because I'm prone to sinus infections anyway. And I was on the phone last night. And a buddy of mine called and I was talking to him. He's like, man, you sound really kind of congested. And I thought, at that point in time, I went, uh-oh. And I thought, here it comes. Kristen and I were just talking about this the other day, about how we had not been sick. And it's been a long time that we've actually been sick. The last time I was sick was when I actually had COVID, and that was over a year ago. And so I'm like, well, I feel pretty good. This is awesome, And man, oh man, it started to come in last night. I ate dinner. I went to bed. I took anything and everything I could get my hands on. I was taking Claritin and NyQuil, and I took the Flonase, and I, just to kind of clear my sinuses. And I laid down in bed last night. I went to bed about 6:30. And I laid down and I was out. I woke up, I guess, about 4:30 this morning, got up and was just awful, felt terrible. Had a fever, the whole thing, and then went back to bed. And then the fever broke. So maybe that's a good sign. And I got up this morning. I have, workers here in the building today. And so I was downstairs with a couple of the guys changing out some filters for the water softening system. And then I'm getting some stuff done around the house for cleanup around the house, because of all the leaves and everything from the city of Pewaukee. They collect some leaves. So anyway, I was getting all that stuff done and I was finally starting to feel a little bit better. And then all of a sudden you just hit that wall. And I hit that wall about 9 this morning. So I got to kind of rally, do the huddle tonight. Then I can come home and crash and burn, feel better tomorrow. So anyway, but the Packers trying to get themselves to feel a little bit better. We know the injuries are mounting. We know that there is not a lot of hope, if any. Technically, they are still alive, but we know, looking at this team, the likelihood of them winning out is pretty much done. It's gone by the wayside. Not much hope there. I did want to make a note real quick. Colton Wong. Were you a little surprised that Matt Arnold kept Colton Wong that picked up the $10 million option?
I was at first. You wonder what their other plans are. Like 10 million, I guess. It's a good amount for the production he gave, but he was injured. He was up and down. I guess maybe they expect more of the previous year from him next season. I don't know. I was a little surprised.
I think that's kind of how they're looking at it, because his power numbers went up, his average went down, his play in the field went down. And the only thing, and I was thinking about this, I thought, you know what, for what the productivity he gave you, there's no way I'm bringing him back. No way. Not for $10 million. Not going to happen. Now, I know in baseball, $10 million anymore is it's not a lot of money. But I'm thinking, for a team that is right now budget unfriendly, and you got to figure out where you're going to get every dollar from to make this team better, because you've got an albatross out there in left field sucking up all the money. And you've got some pitching that's going to be coming, to fruition here when it comes to money. I'm thinking, where are you going to get the money for all of this? So I thought, there's no way they're going to keep him. And then I started to kind of get convinced that they would. The rumbling I get is that they just believe this year was just an off year. And I still wonder if there was some kind of an injury behind the scenes, something that just wasn't right. Or maybe you just kind of get caught into a funk and you got some things going on and it just takes away from your play on the field. And maybe it was just an off season, and then you start to get mired in that quicksand and you can't get out of it. And this was the result. So I think I agree with you. I think they're looking at this going, you know what, next year it'll be a reset for Colton Wong. He'll get back to what he was. We know he's a good player. We believe in him. And when he does come back and play well, then the $10 million is going to be more than worth it for anybody that we would go out and get. So I think I would agree with you that they think that last year, this past season, was kind of an apparition, and maybe, like hitting is contagious. Maybe just everything negative became contagious as the season went on. And I think that's what they're banking on. Otherwise, I can't imagine why you're going to pay $10 million for, minimal amount of home runs. And that's about it, because defensively, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great season for him. And, offensively, as far as the average goes and getting on base and such, just wasn't a great season either. So I just didn't understand why they went ahead and paid the money. But I think, like you said, I think they're banking on what he's going to give you next year. 877-867-1670. The Bucs are in OKC, getting ready for the Oklahoma City Thunder, trying to get back onto the winning ways after taking their first loss of the season the other day. In the meantime, you got the Badgers. Badgers getting ready for their weekend. Ben, so you've got your thoughts on Iowa, and I was kind of listening to part of the Kenny and Halpern broadcast, by the way, just because you guys talk a lot of Badgers, and I like to get caught up sometimes. But with the team itself, after the win this past weekend against Maryland, do you think that this team looks better? The eyeball test will tell you, is this team a lot better since a few weeks ago when they let Paul Chryst go?
I mean, no doubt. It kind of is the team we expected to see when the year started, especially there on defense. I mean, health is a big thing. They got two of their big playmakers in the secondary back for this week, and then before the bye against Purdue. So it's the unit personnel-wise we expected to see, and they're playing like it. They were aided by the weather. The weather was terrible. No one could really throw the football. Mm-hmm. So that played into their strengths. But yeah, overall, definitely some juice within the program. It's the team we expected to see when the year started that could have won the Big Ten West, and I guess still has an outside shot. It makes the beginning of the year sting a little more that now we only have a month of the team we expected to see, but it's definitely encouraging. And now, I mean, the great thing about the Big Ten West college football is even if you're out of the playoff or out of the West race, playing Iowa means something. Beating Minnesota means a lot. So I think it will not be challenging for that performance we saw on Saturday to be repeated come this Saturday and then also the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think they look better. I think they look and who knows? I mean, I don't know if they would have ended up looking like this had Paul Chryst remained. Do you think they would have?
That is a very tough thing to answer. Offensively, probably not. I think they definitely found a groove in the passing game after firing Paul Chryst. But some of that does come down. They were injured on the line all season until this week, really. That group we saw on Saturday is the group we thought we would see all season, and they played really well. I don't think they would generally look like this overall. And part of that also is energy that Leonard has brought in. But it's really hard to say because Chryst was dealt a tough hand injury-wise to start the season.
Right. I just think they look better. And now the question becomes, can they go on this roll and get themselves to not only a bowl, eligible, which I believe they will be, but do you think that this team has it in them to end? Because you need another team. Because if you end up going head to head in the final standings with Illinois is going to win because obviously the Illinois beat you head to head. So you're going to need another team, unless of course Illinois takes a somewhat surprising loss along the way. But by the way, speaking of that, were you at all surprised by the college football standings last night?
Not really, because they're stupid and horribly done, and that falls in line.
Well,
I don't know. I'm not a playoff guy, Bill.
How come are they horribly done?
I not to go into the specifics of each team, but all of the criteria is so arbitrary. Using top 25 wins as this big thing when there's really no difference between a top 25 win and a top 30 win. When you look at the quality of the teams,
right.
It just changes from week to week. One week they praise a team for not giving up points in the first half. Next week they praise them for scoring in the second half to come back. I just think they try to put on the show of who they want to put in and then use whatever criteria to back that up. And frankly, I think it's wrong.
I think TCU is not going to end up being there by the time it's all said and done. I think Tennessee, after debuting at number 1 and falling out of after taking that loss, rightfully so. Oregon got absolutely positively dump trucked earlier this year. And I have no idea why Oregon is number 6 in the country. I hate LSU, but they've got 2 losses where USC has 1. I mean, I get where you're trying to rank the power of these teams. Clemson takes their first loss, and they look pretty vulnerable. They get drilled by Notre Dame. Alabama, obviously, with 2 losses on the season. They got a very, very, very outside shot at actually getting in. But this is the reason you need 12. This is the reason you need 12 teams to really give you a definitive, you can always pick the top 4 or 5, but if you get 12 in there, then the 4 or 5 have to battle through that. And then really the cream does rise to the top. And I believe we're going to have that, in 2024, I think is when it's going to go expanding from 4 to 12. So you really need the 12. But yeah.
This is my argument for going back to 2.
Why?
I'm kind of fed up with the whole 4 teams thinking that it increases parity. And there are always 2 best teams in the country. And in the past, they would just play each other. Mm-hmm. I just want to rid ourselves of all this chatter about the playoff and the playoff rankings. Get back to caring about the games.
Well, here's the problem. And I've said this for years. The preseason rankings and then the actual rankings should not come out until you're 6 games into the season. It shouldn't happen. You should not be ranked anything until you get 6 games into the season, and then you begin the rankings. I think it's a travesty for you take a team like Wisconsin that was so heralded coming into the season. They had no business being in the top 25. None. They were in an embarrassing pick in the top 25. Had no reason to sniff the top 25. And yet teams are getting credit for beating a top 25 team when they don't have top 25. I agree with you. When they don't have top 25 talent, maybe they'll be better now. Who knows? But they had no business being there. So now you look at a team like Oklahoma State on the outside, Syracuse on the outside. Syracuse was a team that was on the rise, and oh my God, this is their year. And since then, nothing. Wake Forest, Oregon State. You go look at all those teams. Cincinnati, same thing. Cincinnati, they were kind of a one-hit wonder. And they rose and they did themselves proud, but then they lost all their guys. They had no business being in the top 25.
Yeah, they stink.
Kentucky, Coastal Carolina, Wake Forest, like I had mentioned, Baylor. I just, all those teams that rose to prominence that they're, oh my God, they're top 25. Give it 6 games in, 7 games in, and then give me your top 25. because otherwise you're giving credit to teams that have beaten a top 25 team who had no business being there to begin with, and you're giving them more credence. And also you're taking away from a team that, oh my God, they got beat by an unranked team when they had no business being ranked to begin with. And this is the reason it's been an innately and inherently bad system for so many years. They try to fix it, and they screw it up all the time. Why? Money. That's it. It's all for the money. That's why they've screwed that thing up so bad. Now, at least if they go to 12, I can't completely fault them, because at least the top 12 teams in the country, you're pretty much going to find within that top 12 area, top 10 area. I don't mind that, but
I'm only in for 12, Bill, if you put the first round on campus, where the higher seeds get to play at home in late December. So then we get your Buckeyes going to some sort of other cold weather place where they can't just run their track meet and win easily.
Well, but then again, if you have best record in conference, then don't you innately end up with a home game?
Yeah, some conference champions will get buys in that scenario because you can't just do the straight bracket.
Right.
But there's some teams like Ohio State that this weekend they have to play in the wind, and they look terrible because as soon as you ask them to do something else and win a real, Big Ten football game, run the football, they can't do it.
Nope.
Some would wonder if they're soft, but
But that's the way they're set up to win. I mean, that's they're playing to their strength. So
they should join the Big 12.
Yeah, but my point is that, okay, if a team that can run the football and is built to run the football and is built to run the football on high grass in Evanston, then they should have the advantage going into that ball game. And they still lost. They still overcame. Weather can be, much like we saw this past weekend, can be a dictator as to how you're going to play the game. Same thing in Madison. Can't throw the ball over the place when you got a 50, 60 mile an hour wind blowing it sideways. Also you got to win the game. By winning the game, you can't rely on field goal kicking unless you get the wind at your back, which then you could hit an 80-yarder the way the wind was blowing. But okay, let's do this. We're going to go ahead and step away, take a quick break, come back. Hey, don't forget tonight, coming up, we are brought to you by Bud Light. It's the Bill Michaels Huddle. We're going to be at Sunset Grill in Pewaukee. Looking forward to it this evening. Come on out and say hi, 6 to 8 tonight. It's the Bill Michaels Huddle. Looking forward to it, and hopefully you're a face in the crowd. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Cool weather, brisk winds, and a hot deal. Hi, this is Gina Della from Pella. Is your home ready for winter weather? Don't wait. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years. When it's cold outside, thanks to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you'll be warm and toasty inside. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin can be installed in as little as a day, with little to no disruption to your family or your home. Plus, you'll get expert advice from our Pella specialists, professional installation by Pella's certified installers, and the excellent service our customers have come to expect. And Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin has products and warranty offers you won't find anywhere else. Don't wait for the heating bills to start piling up. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Expires 11/30/2022. Certain exclusions and restrictions apply. See showroom for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back on this Wednesday, the day after. I don't know about you, depending on what way you voted, I don't really care. But I woke up today and I had 11. It must have happened. Obviously, it happened after I went to bed last night. 11 text messages, and I told you I went to bed about 6:30. 11 text messages between about 6:30 and 8:30 last night. Politically motivated. 11 of them. I know. I'd love to. Does anybody know how to get off of that? Ben, do you get a bunch of those text messages?
Not on Tuesday nights because Maction is on and I turn my phone off.
Oh, okay. But how do you get out of this where you can get your number? I mean, it used to be the do not call list, and I don't even know if they have that anymore. I was on that for a while, but oh my God, it's just like anybody and everybody with anything to sell, to say, whatever. It's my phone is, I don't even hardly look at it anymore. It buzzes, and I've got certain buzzes set up for certain people. Like Kristen has a certain buzz. I know when she's texting me. My kids have a certain buzz. I know when they're texting me. Otherwise I don't even hardly look at it anymore because it's nothing but crap, man. I thought we used to have a do not call list, but I guess that went by the wayside. So anyway, but
You got to just reply to them and ask their thoughts on Aaron Rodgers.
Right? Oh, I've done everything. I have sent the most profane responses. I have just hit stop, which there's one website that continually was pushing me to vote, and I kept hitting stop, and it would say, "You've opted out. Thank you very much." And then they would send me another one with another video, and I kept saying stop, and then finally it became extremely profane, and I called the number back, and it's a spam number. It just, it's a computerized generated number. I can't get out of this. It's like, how do you get out of this number cycle? So anyway, that being said, I got up and woke up to a bunch of that stuff this morning over on my phone. This one's from Mark. Mark says, in regards to Mike McCarthy, he's talking about Mike McCarthy. If McCarthy comes back and really beats the heck out of the Packers on Sunday, do the Packers then make a move to fire the head coach, to fire the general manager, to bench the quarterback? What will they do, if anything? I don't think anything. I don't think anything. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're just going to continue to move forward. I just think that what can you do? You know, you're not going to make a move midseason. I think, and I think a lot of people think that Matt LaFleur has built up enough, credential, so to speak. He's got enough coin in the bank that he's not going anywhere unless they feel he completely lost the team. And I've said this before. If he completely lost the team, well, then you got to make a change. If things are just scattered and not good and the team's not responding and the team looks as if they just kind of quit, yeah, then you just, you can't keep them. Aaron Rodgers had a good point yesterday on McAfee. He was talking about, guys can go rogue. Either guys can just play for themselves and kind of go rogue and try to pad their own stats. Guys can quit and just try to play not to get hurt. And then there's guys that play because their competitive spirit inside them will not allow them to fail. So what do you do? But I don't think, unless the team looks as if they just said to hell with it, I don't think they're firing Matt LaFleur. I don't think they're firing Brian Gutekunst, and I think they're going to get a shot to turn this thing back around. Just my thought. Just my thought. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. I'm going to get to the phone calls here in just a second. Hey, I want to remind you the Milwaukee Admirals coming up Friday, April 14th. Remember the Stone Temple Pilots. Stone Temple Pilots are going to be performing the after concert on Friday, April 14th. Get your tickets now. It's against the dreaded Chicago Wolves. So they're announcing you can get your tickets soon. They're going to go fast. And if you want to bring a group, they can help you with that. So go to MilwaukeeAdmirals.com. That is MilwaukeeAdmirals.com. Let's get to the phone calls. Let's go to Derek listening to us in Albany. Derek, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Hey, Bill. As a longtime Packer fan, and I've been a fan since like the middle 60s, and, so those of us who are over 60, we've seen just about everything. And, some people might, when you're out, when you do what you do, anybody who's in the media, you're going to have people who are going to be your detractors and people are going to applaud what you do. There's going to be people who would say, oh, that rant that Bill had was ridiculous. It was irreverent. No. It was cathartic. It's like if you have kids, right? You get mad at your kids, but you love them. You love your kids and they're going to do crazy stuff and you're going to forgive them and you're going to hope for the best and you're going to turn the corner. Getting angry is just showing that you care. It's just passion.
Right.
And to me, I like what you just said a moment ago, saying, hey, I think they can turn around. If you're a real fan, not a knee-jerk reaction fan, but if you're a real fan, you still have hope. You're still going to love your team. You're still going to root for that team no matter what. That's what being a fan is about. So for people to say, oh, it's over, well, you might think, sometimes we question ourselves. We're like, wait a minute. Is it impossible for them to beat Dallas? No. Is it impossible for them to beat Tennessee on a short week? Tennessee has to come in? No. And, I know Philadelphia might be conceivably the most difficult game of the year, but none of this is impossible. Okay, that's the point. We got the talent on the team. Yeah, we've had injuries. Yeah, we've had things that have happened. But hey, fans, don't lose the faith. Get mad. That's fine. I got mad, and that's why it was so funny when you guys put up that soundbite, from Network. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it. That's great. That's cathartic. But as fans, we have the right, and I've made the investment emotionally and physically, and the women in my life have said, hey, this is irrational. You know that, Bill. It's irrational. Right. It's a game. It's a game. But you invest. That's why we listen to you. That's why we're fans. That's why the little boy in us is as passionate as it is. That's why I played football till I was in my 40s, for Christ's sake, and walked away with a lot of injuries. But I loved it. I would never change a thing.
Mm-hmm. No, Derek, I appreciate it, man. I get it. Thanks so much for the phone call. It's and I read stuff over on the Facebook fan page and on Twitter and stuff, and people get pissed. It's like, well, what do you want? What do you want? And people say, well, tell me the good. I say, you tell me the good. You tell me the good. I can tell you the good. That's easy for you. You have no work in it. None. You want to complain about the complainers. And you want to believe, and I get that. Maybe I'm taking your hope away. I look at things in a reality light, and then I get mad because I want to see them win. He's 100% correct. And then, people say, well, you sound like this, you sound like that. Who cares? You sound like the guy that's drinking the green and gold Kool-Aid that'll go buy whatever it is they happen to sell you with no repercussion, no care in the world, almost with blinders on. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You're the guy. We're the people that keep the franchise afloat. We're the people that bought the stock. We're the people that said, hey, we'll go ahead and just here's our money. Take it. Here's our money. We'll buy stock. Here's our money. Take it. We want to see the improvements around the stadium, which many of you might not even use, may not even ever get to. Here's our money. Take it. It's an incredibly unique fan base. And you are a fan no matter what. If you bitch and yell, if you praise and cheer, if you remain silent, you are a fan. If you're a fan of the Packers, you're a fan of the Packers. It's what it is. That's what it is. But people that get upset and tell you that you need to be upset or need to rein it in or don't, you can't say this or can't say, who are you to tell me? Right? I agree with that. I get a lot of those people. And what's really funny is they never bring anything substantive to the table. They just complain. I said, tell me where I'm wrong. They can't do that. So they just moan. That's okay. I guess moaning's a good thing. 877-867-1670. We got to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We got a lot more to get to, more phone calls to get to. Stay with us. This portion of the program brought to you by our good friends over there, Wisconsin Harley-Davidson in Oconomowoc. And I know, I get it. The end of the riding season is upon us. After tomorrow, I think it's about it, with the highs being in the upper 30s for quite some time. So I think tomorrow is kind of the kiss of the end of our riding season. I keep saying it, but I think tomorrow's it. And if you're still a hardcore rider and you want warm clothes, they've got motor clothes. They've got warm motor clothes, warm leathers. If you're looking for a terrific bike, maybe a new one or a used one, they got them. New ones coming in, used ones on the floor, they've got them. If you're looking for winter storage or maybe to winterize your bike, get some service work done to it, now's the time to do that kind of stuff too. Just give them a shout. wishd.com. That's Wish, WISHD.com. wishd.com. And that's Wisconsin Harley-Davidson in Oconomowoc on Highway 67, just south of 94. You can't miss it from the highway. Be right back.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisconsin isn't snobby, snooty, or pretentious. It's Midwestern charm at its finest. And that's exactly what Forgotten Fire Winery in Peshtigo is all about. Fun in a bottle without the attitude. You can find their full wine and cider lineup in their tasting room or in liquor and grocery stores throughout the state. The winery is a great place to get away for wine and cider tastings, great live music, and private events all year long. Remember, any time is a great time for Forgotten Fire wines and ciders. Wisconsin wine made from Wisconsin people.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. Hey, if you're going to be heading out, watching the game, maybe catching some music this weekend, getting breakfast on Sunday morning, maybe a good Bloody Mary, that's our friends over at Social House, H-A-U-S, Social House on Lisbon Road, Menominee Falls. Go over and say hi to Dan Della and his staff. They're great people over there. Really, really good people. And they're the home of the cheese curd burger, by the way. That's the cheese curd burger. It's not one giant curd. It's a bunch of curds smashed onto a burger. That's the home of the cheese curd burger right there. They've been doing that thing for a while. That's the Social House, H-A-U-S, on Lisbon Road in Menominee Falls, right there in Menominee Falls, Brookfield. It's more Brookfield than it is Menominee Falls, but it's right there. You can't miss it. By the way, a report came out today on an NFL conference call. Executive Jeff Miller was asked about turf versus grass, because we know that there were some comments made about the Lions and the turf in Ford Field. Says in 2021, there wasn't a meaningful statistical difference between the surfaces, and there wasn't any difference in the 2022 preseason. The questions have changed about turf. There's more questions being asked about it because of its non-forgiving play. But I'll tell you this, it's not going anywhere, because you've got more and more and more of these stadiums that are being built with either one, turf, and two, their domes that cannot put real grass inside. So it's not going anywhere. I guess some turfs are better than others for the way they're set up. But I I don't see where they're going to change it anytime soon. You can complain about it, but I don't think they're going to change it anytime soon. So it's put it this way, it's a lot better than what it used to be, say at the old Vet down in Philadelphia, Three Rivers in Pittsburgh, Riverfront in Cincinnati, up in Buffalo, when Buffalo had their turf, that hard AstroTurf prior to. All of that was just awful. Even that turf that was over in Minneapolis in the Dome. Oh. So. Pac fan says, why can't they put real grass inside? Because the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas and also out in Arizona both have the same system where the field drops down and rolls out from underneath the stadium. That's why. You have to engineer that. Could they do it? I guess if they were forced to, they probably could. But they don't do that. To all new stadiums, yeah, you could probably do that, but they don't. Arizona was the first stadium to do that. Ben, have you ever seen that? You ever been there in person to see them wheel that field out of there?
No, I am kind of addicted to the time lapse videos of that.
It is amazing.
Basketball courts onto hockey rinks and stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool. We were out there for the Pro Bowl some years ago, and that stadium drops down about 3 feet. It comes off of these they level the field hydraulically, and it's on this giant growth slab. It's amazing, and it drops down about 3 feet, and then it's on these giant, kind of like the same bogies that hold the roof for American Family Field. These giant, which is basically train wheels, as they call them bogies, but they're train wheels. These big giant train track wheels, and it rolls out on this train track. There's like 5 or 6 of these, maybe 8 of these tracks, and it goes out from underneath the stadium, and it goes out into the sun. And then they water it, they cut it, they do everything out there to it, and then they wheel it back in, and it's ready to go. But when like the Arizona Cardinals aren't playing there, that whole thing's gone. And the amazing thing is like they do, I think it's the country's largest, if I'm not mistaken, RV and travel trailer show in Arizona. And they get rid of the field. They take the field completely out of there, and they bring in these massive these tour buses and, fifth wheels, travel trailers, campers. I mean, all these different things. They wheel them in on this other, concrete slab, and they all park there. And that's where they do the travel trailer show. It's amazing. They have not done a ton inside the new stadium out in Vegas yet, but I know they're going to. I know there's some things that are scheduled to go in there. But they have such a big convention center to begin with. But they've even talked about the possibility of doing like an anniversary SEMA show inside that stadium where the Raiders play. But yeah, that's how they do it. They wheel the field out from underneath that thing, and it goes out into the sun, and it gets watered outside, it gets mowed outside, everything, and then they wheel it back in. That's how they do it. That's how they do it. By the way, speaking of building basketball courts and stuff, what you had mentioned, did you see the time lapse of building the basketball court that is ready to go now at American Family Field for the Badgers game this coming Friday night?
I have. I am
it's pretty cool.
A little bit perturbed that the roof will be closed.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well,
if I'm being honest,
the roof is going to be closed because it's going to be cold.
Exactly.
If you leave the roof open, you're going to find, first of all, it's supposed to rain, so you're not going to leave the roof open. But I'm really interested to see, because they're now heating that place. I'm interested to see how are you going to heat that place and what they're going to do. They have those 2 large, scaffold stanchions, whatever you want to call them, out in left center and right center field. And it's between those 2 is where the giant scoreboard is. So, but those are open air. I wonder if they dropped like a tarp around those or a clear plastic down from top to bottom around those to seal off the inside, because otherwise the wind just blows right in there. And I don't think you can heat that place up enough to keep it at a, say a 65 degree, 70 degree type of, heat, because you're not going to put 60,000 in there, 50,000 in there. That's going to make body heat. You're probably, how many tickets have they sold for that thing? Do you know? Because I just saw an ad say that tickets are still available.
Yeah, not as many as you would think.
Right? I
guess
go ahead.
kind of makes sense. I don't know how many. I can speak for myself. Hard for me to make it to that game driving however long.
Right.
When you work on Friday and all that stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't know how many tickets they'd actually sold for that thing, but it looks cool. It really does. Looks cool as hell. I had a couple friends of mine that were part of the advertising group that got an early look at it, and he took a couple pictures for me, and I was like, wow, that is really sharp. They're finishing the stands up today, I think, on the far side, which would be basically like where second base is, where the stands are, the temporary stands that they're putting up, the bleacher seating they're putting up over there. They're finishing that up today. But yeah, otherwise it looks really cool. Like it. And who knows? Maybe I don't think this would, because somebody had said, well, maybe this will be a Final Four. That has been approved for a Final Four. I don't know if you know that or not. That has been approved for a Final Four. They could do, if they chose to do it, a Final Four to put 40-something thousand in there. You know, they could do that. However, they have not approved a Final Four for the city because of the lack of hotel space. They need, I don't know how much more they need for a Final Four, but they need more hotel space. So as far as last I heard. So anyway, let's do this. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to come back, get more into this. Got to get more into the phone calls too. I apologize. I got a little bit long-winded. Gerard, I'll get to you first. Z and the D, I'll talk to you as well. So stay right where you're at. More of the Bill Michaels Show. It's coming up right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers getting ready to host the Dallas Cowboys here on Sunday. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones says that Aaron Rodgers threw to Jared Cook to set up a Mason Crosby field goal to win the divisional playoffs back in 2016 in Dallas was tough, but he's still upset about a play the year before here at Lambeau Field.
You've had some tough battles with Aaron Rodgers over the years. Is there any player you can think of that's caused you more football heartache?
That pass he threw out here that he threw on the sideline, that at the end of the ball game, it seems like, because he's quarterback, it seems like he's made the plays. The biggest heartbreak play he wasn't involved in, and that was the one of Des Bryant when they ruled he didn't have the catch. That's the one that stands out the most.
Jones on the Fan in Dallas. We spoke to Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy on the phone, who says that coaches get fired, but being let go by the Packers with still 4 games left to play in the schedule left what he calls a dent in his family.
The exit, definitely was not a fan of. And, it left a dent with our family. But the year off, the opportunity to be together and do the things we did, I think in hindsight, turns out to be one of the best things that we were able to go through.
So how will McCarthy be received before this Sunday's game? Aaron Rodgers on the McAfee Show.
I'm going to give him a big old hug. I can tell you that much. See, Mike shared some messages the past couple weeks, and I know it means a lot to him to come back. I really do hope the reception for him is as warm as it needs to be.
That's Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
Cowboys Waterfront Pub and Grill, they've got a meat raffle going on, and in doing so, they're going to be giving some of the proceeds to the Badgerland ski team for the young men and women that do the ski team, and they do the ski shows and such all over the area. So get out and support them. Head over to Curly's Waterfront Pub and Grill, check it out, and be a part of the meat raffle coming up. I believe it's this weekend over at Curly's Waterfront Pub and Grill. Let's get back to the phone calls. Let's go to Gerard. Gerard, what's going on, man?
Hey, Bill. Nothing you said has been wrong. I mean, nothing at all. Let me go through a few things. Bakhtiari and Tanyan didn't tear their knee because of the turf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, let's get to this receiver thing and the draft choices. In the beginning of the year, okay, we knew Adams was gone. Okay. They drafted rookie wide receivers. Now, we always said it took how long for receivers to work with Rodgers. Okay. Then they're telling us Lazard is on number 1 when we knew he was a 3 or 4. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we were buffaloed all along with that. When we knew we always needed a receiver besides Adams, we knew, and they didn't have Adams anymore. We're thinking, maybe Lazard is really this good. When we all knew he wasn't a number 1 receiver. So that's what I'm talking about so far. Now, that looks like to me, they're saying, we're going to draft these 2 receivers or 3 receivers or how many, and they're going to fit it. When we knew Lazard wasn't a number 1, when we knew these receivers, it would take years and Rodgers' window was small. So we knew all this stuff. And they did this, and it seemed to me like you said the other day that Green Bay fans aren't stupid. Well, we're not stupid, most of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we see all this stuff, and we know it's not going to work. And as far as the other person that said, and you guys, look, I don't want them to win the rest of this year. I've been a Packer fan during Bart Starr. I don't want them to win, okay? Because they're not going to go anywhere. Because they got all these injuries and they got all these holes. And look, what happened when they won the last game of the year? You know what happened? It cost us how many Hall of Famers? It cost us all these Aikman, Thomas, Sanders, Deion Sanders. And I mean, look what it cost us. We drafted Tony Mandarich.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it cost us. So I don't want us to, look, I'll be a Green Bay, so I'm put in the ground, I'll be a Green Bay Packer fan. And a devoted one and everything else. But I don't want them to win. There's no need. I would love to see them beat the Cowboys. They lose the rest of the game. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Everything they've done, Bill, has not made sense. Everything. Because you don't do this with the receivers now when Rodgers is pushing 40 years old.
Right.
You don't draft, you're drafting. So what's the game, Bill? What's the game? What are they really thinking? Is this Rodgers really? Is he going to retire after this year? Maybe he told them he was going to, and nobody ever knew it. That doesn't know it.
Yeah, that's just it. It's
So
like
what is the real game?
If you're not going all in, then why'd you pay Rodgers the money? And if you paid Rodgers the
the
money, you
whole
would have said,
point.
right. If you paid Rodgers the money, then we assume you're all in. Therefore, aren't you going to make a lot of moves to win now within the next year or two at the latest? So I agree with you 100%. You're not playing for draft choice. I mean, look, if this season goes completely awry and they end up with a really high draft choice, it doesn't hurt, but you still have more things to do. You still have to do more than just what you've done so far, because this team obviously is not good enough to win, and certainly not good enough to compete for a championship. Appreciate the phone call as always. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Stick around. We got Mark Schofield coming up. SB Nation going to be joining us. We're going to talk with him. Don't forget Andy Herman of the Pack a Day podcast going to join us about an hour from now. And 2 hours from now, the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee, is going to be here as well. We got a lot more yet to go. The Bill Michaels Show, brought to you by our good friends over there at New Male Medical, treating guys with ED all over the state of Wisconsin, well beyond the borders. All you got to do is call 414-455-4451. 414-455-4451. It really, really does work, but you can't do anything if you don't call. More right after this.
Interested in a rewarding career with a strong Wisconsin company, Rural Mutual Insurance is looking to add to their growing team of successful employees and agents. Apply online today at ruralmutual.com/careers.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Colton Wong is staying in Milwaukee. The Brewers have picked up the $10 million 2023 team option on the veteran second baseman. This represents the first major move the Brewers have made since Matt Arnold was promoted to president of baseball operations last month after David Stern stepped down. And finally, the Milwaukee Bucks, who sit at 9-1 on the year, are in Oklahoma City tonight to take on the Thunder for a 7 o'clock tip. For the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network, I'm Ebo.
Hour number 2 of the Bill Michaels Show. Glad to have you with us. 877-867-1670. You want to hit us up, feel free to go ahead and do so. 877-867-1670. Our buddy Mark Schofield from SB Nation. You can find him at Mark Schofield over on Twitter. Now joining us on the hotline. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Bill. How are you today?
We're good. Tell me this. I want to just be Packer centric here for a moment. What do you see wrong with this team outside looking in?
I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, from injuries, from all of the sort of quarterback / receiver mistrusts and, missed opportunities downfield. You watch that game on Sunday, you rewatch it, you're seeing receivers that are open at different areas of the field, particularly, downfield, seam routes, vertical routes, things like that, and the ball is not getting thrown to them. It seems like the quarterback right now is not trusted some of the opportunities downfield, some of the receivers downfield. You look at, the 3 interceptions down near the goal line, those were throws that, one was deflected, but it looked like it was going to be behind the receiver on the sort of slant route RPO concept. The throwback to a tackle, it looked like that was going to be short. Then the final interception, the back frontside safety actually did a really good job of reading Rodgers and jumping it. And so, you're seeing missed opportunities there as well. And of course, you take a step back and realize that had you taken points in some of those situations, not thrown turnovers in some of those situations, you might have come out with a win. And so you piece it all together, and it's kind of just a big ball of bad on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah,
defensively, but I mean, defensively, yeah, there are injuries and stuff, but it's that big ball of bad that we've kind of been talking about for weeks.
The rest of the NFC right now, and I know that the Cowboys were on a bye and they're sitting at 6-2, and here they come into Lambeau Field. Obviously, Philadelphia, they get a big win. They remain undefeated, and that undefeated record is going to continue to weigh on their shoulders as time goes on. But the rest of the NFC, you've got a 7-1 Vikings team who seems to be real. They just got better with Hawkinson. Give me your thoughts on the rest of the NFC right now.
It's so strange, Bill, because these NFC East teams, you've got 3 above 500 right now. Washington at 4-5 after the loss to the Vikings. They're going to start beating up on each other a little bit. Like you said, Philadelphia at 8-0. The undefeated record might hang on them a bit. You wonder if at some point they're going to play, maybe it was the game against Houston because they didn't exactly blow out a bad Houston Texans team. Maybe at some point they'll play a bad game, and there's some opportunities for that down the stretch. But this NFC writ large is not great. I mean, a cluster of teams at 4-5, a cluster of teams at 3-6, and those teams at 3-6, of which the Packers are one. On the one hand, you might say, look, we've got to figure some things out, and I know there's been a lot of rumblings about we need to figure out what we're going to do with Jordan Love. Do we play him at some point? At the same time, you're still kind of in the playoff race, as crazy as that sounds, because you're at 3-6. Because what teams do you really buy in? I'm putting the NFC East aside. I know Minnesota's 7-1, but like we've talked about for a long time, we will know a lot more about that team come Thanksgiving night. Because they've gotten through a softer part of their schedule. Their next 4 games: Buffalo, Dallas, the Patriots on Thanksgiving, and then if you want to say 4 games, the Jets at December 4th. Those now they're getting into a tougher part of their schedule. If they're 9-2, 9-3 at the end of those games, then I guess you could say they're for real. But if we get through this 4-game stretch and they're 8-4, 7-5, we'll know more about them, which might allow the Packers to get back into it. So that's kind of the weird situation that they're in. I was on a show in the DC area on Tuesday night, and similar question, like, what do we do about the quarterback position? It's like, well, you're still kind of in it. So I don't know if you really hand the keys over to the younger guy, but you also need to figure out what you have in the younger guy, and it's causing for some headaches in both those cities.
So let me ask you real quick. Do you believe, speaking of guys that you've handed the keys off to, Russell Wilson out, Geno Smith in? He's been fantastic. They get yet another win, put up 31 points on the Cardinals this past week. Are the 6-3 Seahawks for real?
I think they're for real. I really do. You look at some of the numbers that Geno Smith has put up, vertical passing and things like that. He's throwing the ball downfield, being aggressive in the sort of downfield parts of the playbook that are tougher to execute. And the fact that he's playing at such a high level makes me think he's for real. You look at the pocket poise, the way he's handling pressure, makes me think he's for real. But the bigger part of the story might be this, Bill. You look at Seattle going forward. As it stands right now, they have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. of the NFL draft next year, including, the first rounder from Denver, which right now is at 11, if the draft were to happen right now. Their own at 23. Then the second rounder at 45, their own at 56. They also, as we sit here right now, in terms of cap space for next year, they sit at about $54 million in available cap space, which is fifth most in the league. So then you take a step back, you look at how Geno's playing, and you think, hey, we all thought this past summer they're going to have to draft a quarterback because Drew Lock, Geno Smith, that's not the answer. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're in a situation where they can give them maybe a short-term deal and say, hey, we'll do right by you. We've got some cap space here. We won't link ourselves to you for the next 5 years, but maybe the next 2. We'll see how this plays out. And they don't have to draft a quarterback if they don't want to. Maybe if one they like falls to them, they'll do it. They don't have to force that thing. So this could be the start of something big. This sort of rebuild we thought was coming, it seems to have happened overnight, and it's due in large part to Smith being ahead of schedule. Now their rebuild is just a retool and a revamp. They're in a very good spot going forward, too.
Talking about Mark Schofield at SB Nation. Find him at Mark Schofield over on Twitter. I wanted to ask you about the Giants sitting at 6, and really both New York teams for that matter, but the Giants sitting at 6-2. I'll tell you this. I know there's a lot of talk about the MVP race and about who should or shouldn't be the MVP this year, but my God, Saquon Barkley is their entire offense. He's the guy that's catching passes. He's the guy that's running the football, finding the holes, breaking away, scoring the touchdowns. If that guy's not in the MVP talk, I don't know what non-quarterback positional players should be,
Yeah, I mean, you could look at maybe a Nick Chubb as well, maybe a Derrick Henry when we talk about non-quarterbacks, because the way they've sort of carried their teams as well, particularly Cleveland when they're playing with Jacoby Brissett. We saw what Henry means to the Titans on Sunday night with Malik Willis. But Barkley, I mean, not only does he lead the team in rushing, which of course you would expect, but Daniel Jones is second, interesting enough, but he leads the team in receptions. Like you said, he's catching the ball out of the backfield. I mean, Daniel Jones, when he drops the throw, it's, Richie James, Daniel Bellinger, a rookie tight end. That's who he's really looking to because they've missed on some receiver moves. And, Kenny Golladay, the free agent sign in, that hasn't panned out. They trade away Kadarius Toney. And so Barkley has been a massive part of their offense. I mean, I don't have the percentages in front of me, but I'd imagine, yards from scrimmage, he's probably at least 60, 70% for that team. The thing with the Giants is like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, similar to Minnesota, the schedule gets a little different now. They had the easier part of their schedule. They're coming off the bye. They got Houston and Detroit to start, which is great, but they still have a game at Dallas. They've got 2 games against the Eagles coming up. They've got a game at Minnesota. It's a similar situation in Minnesota where, we'll know more about them in a couple of weeks. But at this point, you can't really argue with the 6 wins. As for the Jets, you start to wonder, how good are they? Well, look at the defense. The defense is fantastic. Look what they did to the Bills this past week. If they could get some consistency from Zach Wilson, particularly if Zach Wilson could just be league average against pressure instead of the worst quarterback in the NFL when pressured this year, we might be talking about a surprise playoff team.
I want to go with the Jets in the AFC for a minute. For a long time, we just thought it was Buffalo and everybody else. And Buffalo, like you said, the Jets beat them up. They kind of came back. Although I got to say, Buffalo did not look like Buffalo. Buffalo looked like a team that thought they'd already won a Super Bowl. So I don't know what to make out of that team. But the Jets are good. Kansas City's obviously good. The Ravens sitting at 6-3 in the AFC North. Cincinnati seems to have kind of pieced a few things back together and trying to make an effort now to get back to the positive side. Give me your thoughts in the AFC and how they're stacked.
Yeah, well, I mean, first we start with all the stuff that I got wrong, right? I remember coming on you all summer long and saying, hey, that AFC West, Bill, it's going to be whoever comes out of that, they're going to be in great shape because, that division looks loaded. Certainly doesn't look that way right now. Buffalo, they started well. They had the weird loss to Miami, but now they get the loss to the Jets, and Josh Allen is dinged up, and whenever you see and hear reports about a quarterback with an elbow injury, it's never a good place. Remember the Matthew Stafford conversations from this summer. And so, you wonder a little bit about the Bills. That AFC East at large looks good because you've got the Jets 6-3, like we talked about. New England 5-4, all 4 teams over 500. But a team that I really started to come around on, Miami. You look at the team speed, you look at what Tua has done this year, the way he's grown. And I know you can still find underthrows and things like that. But when Tyreek is running a 4.2 40, you might underthrow him at times because he gets downfield so quickly. That offense is stressing defenses. The thing to watch with the addition of Bradley Chubb, and they immediately gave him the extension, can they just start getting more consistent pressure on the opposing passer? They were one of the top teams in the league last year in terms of pressure in the opposing quarterback per drop back, but they cratered this year. And all the zero blitz schemes and all the pressures they dialed up to try to generate that last year, it wasn't working. Now with Chubb, they added somebody that on paper and on film can win some one-on-ones for them. As they start to work him in more into the rotation up front, does that actually happen? And if so, they'll pressure the quarterback more. That defense will be a little bit better. That offense can certainly score points. So, yeah, you've got that cluster of teams in the AFC like you talked about, but the one I'm really keeping my eye on are the Miami Dolphins.
I want to ask you about it, not only the Dolphins being in all of this as well, but give me your thoughts on you'd mentioned the Patriots, and they've been kind of up and down. It seems like at times they're ready to take off, and then they fall back to the pack. Are the Patriots for real, or are they still in a rebuild, or are they still in somewhat of a quarterback controversy? Where are they right now?
I mean, I think they're built in an offensive controversy, not so much a quarterback controversy. I mean, Mac Jones is the guy. I know that there was the Zappy fever for the wins over the Browns, and the Lions, but this is a Mac Jones team right now, and for the next year or so, it should be. But they're still trying to find sort of an offensive identity, particularly in the passing game. Is it going to be a sort of shotgun spread type offense that we saw for years with Tom Brady? Is it going to be the under center, condensed formations, boot action, play action offense they were trying to install, this summer when so much was written about Matt Patricia and Joe Judge and a Kyle Shanahan influenced offense? Is it going to be, what we've kind of seen in recent weeks, which is, a more under center play action passing game, but not really, what we thought it was going to look like? Is it going to be more of your traditional Patriots under center drop back passing game? And so I think that's part of what's happening in New England is they're still struggling to find what they want to be, particularly in the passing game. Their defense is fantastic. 9 sacks last week. Matthew Judon is a defensive player of the year candidate. There are probably guys that would get more votes if it happened right now, but, among the league leaders in sacks. Josh Uche had 3 sacks against the Colts this past week. So they figured things out on the defensive side of the ball, and relatively quickly. It's just, what do they want to be on offense? What do they want that passing game to look like? They figured out the run game component because they moved away from the outside zone, wide zone stuff to a lot of inside zone, gap power, concepts like that. But it's that passing game component. What are they going to be in the passing game? They have to figure that out. If they figure that out, yeah, they could be for real. But until they do, and with everything else that's happened in the AFC East, it's going to be an uphill battle for them.
Always a pleasure, man. I certainly appreciate it, Mark, and we're going to talk to you again next week, okay?
Looking forward to it already, Bill. Have a great afternoon.
You too, pal. Talk to you. There you go. Mark Schofield from SB Nation. You can find him at Mark Schofield over there on Twitter. And like I said, you can find him on SB Nation. By the way, Jacques Vaughn, the new head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. News just now breaking. Jacques Vaughn, the new head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, in case you were wondering. There you go. When we come back, going to hear a little bit from Aaron Rodgers and some of the things that he had to say. And then we'll get back into some of the phone calls as well. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You want to find us, please feel free to go ahead and do so. And you can also hit us up on Twitter, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all that stuff. Follow us over on the Bud Light live stream, as many of you are right now. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us in that particular sense. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at ForgottenFireWinery.com. I got a great letter from Mark and his wife, Kathy, and they said they went up to Peshtigo. They were just passing through. I guess they were heading up. They have family in Menominee, and they went up, and they were passing through, and they said, hey, let's stop. They stopped. They said they had a great experience with Jake, a lot of fun. It was during the week. It wasn't on a weekend when they had music, but said, as she put it, what an incredibly charming little place. Great to have the wine tasting. My husband and I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. We walked away with 8 bottles of wine. Thanks for giving us the heads up for Forgotten Fire Winery. That is, I don't need to do anything else regarding commercials for them. That's fantastic. Every time I send somebody there or somebody goes there, they find out how great it is. And if you can't get up to Peshtigo, Wisconsin, stop into your local grocery store, liquor store, wine store, and ask for it by name. ForgottenFireWinery.com. That is ForgottenFireWinery.com.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
You got to hit it, bang it, rock it, put it in the pocket.
Dwayne, love the stuff that they do. The work they do is absolutely phenomenal. But that's Dwayne's Cover It All up in Wausau. Wisconsin's best canvas, upholstery, boat cover provider. If you have, furniture around the house, gym equipment, whatever it happens to be, office equipment, he can do it. He can do it all. And reupholster, recover, and just make it look like brand new. That's Dwayne's Cover, DUANES, Dwayne'sCoveritAll.com. That is Dwayne'sCoveritAll.com. Call them 715-870-2119. 715-870-2119. That's Dwayne'sCoveritAll.com. Dwayne'sCoveritAll.com. By the way, Aaron Rodgers, as the injuries continue to just pile up, Rodgers says that he's stunned at the amount of injuries this team has had.
Just in that game, we lost Rashawn Gary, Stokes, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Aaron Jones. It still had a chance to find a way to win that game in the end. Didn't. So disappointed on many levels, but there's never any concession, never any giving up. Definitely not from me, definitely not from so many of the guys that we go to battle with. We just got to find a way to get over that hump.
Also, Rogers said on McAfee, look, at 3-6, it's a lot of hope is pretty much out the window, but there is still, as he puts it, something to play for.
Well, there's only two options, right? One of them, cash it in mentally and just become a independent contractor almost. And I've seen this during my time where everybody just kind of comes in and does their work and then goes home. That's one option. And the other option is to cede to the competitive greatness that lies within you, to let that take over and to let that be your North Star and your guide, and to say, I care so deeply about this, and I'm so thankful for this opportunity to still be out there playing, that no matter what happens to anybody on the squad, including myself, I'm going to go out and compete as hard as I can because that's all I know how to do. And maybe in that, there'll be inspiration for others to raise their level of game. But that's all I know how to do. And the opposite, like I said, I've seen it, and I hope I don't see it moving forward. But that's the other option, is to just come in, do your work. You can still be professional about it, but I'm going to keep choosing to come in, to prepare as I always do, and to go put out my competitive greatness on Sunday and hope it is good enough to win and inspire people. And that's all I know how to do.
He's right. I mean, if you come in and just kind of say, okay, I'm only going to do my job, what is asked of me, that's it. There's the extra, there's the leadership quality, there's the passion, and then there's guys who come in and just kind of become the rogue contractors, just taking care of me, not going to worry about the rest of the team. Just, I can only, but they always say you can only control you. You can't do everybody else's job. So it's a fine line you got to walk right now. And sometimes when you get into this situation, you just relax and you just do your job. And if everybody does their job, then all of a sudden you can find success. He does talk about not one, not two, but 3 different picks that he had thrown against the Lions this past Sunday.
Well, there's a lot that goes into what I can control. 2 of them weren't great throws. There's some other parts to plays. It's not usually not just on one person. Every now and then it's just on one person, but there's a lot that goes into each play. But yeah, it wasn't a great throw to Dave, and wasn't a great throw to Bobby either. I've thrown a lot of those balls low around the goal line like that. Look, I've made a thrown touchdown passes many times. I don't give a shit what any of these experts on TV have to say. There's a lot that goes into all these things, and for somebody to play armchair quarterback who doesn't know what the hell play we're running or what's going on, that's fine. I don't really give a shit, to be honest with you.
What an ass. Because a lot of the quote armchair quarterbacks, now maybe he's just looking at certain people like locally or something. I have no idea. But when you look at some of the national broadcasts, there's a lot of people that have played the game that called him out, said, look, those were 2 bad passes. You hit a guy in the face.
Bill, the question was that McAfee asked relating to national broadcast of the people saying what went wrong, and then McAfee asking Rodgers what went wrong.
Yeah.
For context. There.
As he had said, the throw to Bobby was low. It was bad. It was a bad throw. And then the pass to Bakhtiari was a bad throw. Now the other one, he was just trying to thread the needle, and he talked about it being, not just him, but other people. So you don't know if the route was run wrong. It was supposed to be shortened or something. I have no idea, but is it me or does Aaron Rodgers hate to be criticized? I mean, we all do. Okay. All of us hate to be criticized, but if it's legitimate, maybe, and sometimes like if you make a mistake, you made a mistake, right? I screwed up. That's on me. I screwed that up. But you hate to hear people keep harping on it because you already know you screwed up. You don't need 45 people telling you screwed up. Because if you're really self-aware and you're also very honest, you screwed up. So I understand that aspect of it. But man, there's times where it's like, Aaron, you take a lot of praise from a lot of people, and you don't mind that. And suddenly when everybody wants to pick apart your performance, and it was a poor performance, suddenly nobody knows what the F they're talking about. Take a listen again to that. I just found that rather interesting.
Well, there's a lot that goes into what I can control. Two of them weren't great throws. There's some other parts to plays. It's not usually not just on one person. Every now and then it's just on one person, but there's a lot that goes into each play. But yeah, it wasn't a great throw to Dave, and wasn't a great throw to Bobby either. I've thrown a lot of those balls low around the goal line like that. Look, I've made a thrown touchdown passes many times. I don't give a shit what any of these experts on TV have. But there's a lot that goes into all these things, and for somebody to play armchair quarterback who doesn't know what the hell play we're running or what's going on, that's fine. I don't really give a shit, to be honest with you.
And I understand that if you're, if some of these guys don't know what they're talking about, I get that. I understand that. But there's a lot of people that are analysts that used to play the game. They get it. Pac-Man says you hate it too. You'll block people. No, I block people that are dumb, that say things that aren't true. That's what I block. I don't mind if somebody's got a legitimate take and they say, no, you're wrong. This is the reason, or if it's an argument over opinion, you got to convince me, but to come at me certain ways, I won't stand for it. And I'm not going to get into the weeds. And when I am this is the way, when you talk about that, I will argue. I'll argue the issue. And then when you start to go off topic and you won't answer the argument, then you've lost my respect and I blow you out. And the people that are on Twitter, people that are on Facebook, people that are on all the different other platforms, you lost that right. And I don't care.
Little quipper over on Twitter has his undies in a bunch.
Yeah. And it's the people that make one comment and then walk away. I did it today. As a matter of fact, over on the Facebook fan page, I had posted a video yesterday, and I had given somebody an opportunity to refute what it is they said. Not once, not twice, but 3 different times. Finally, they won't do it. So I went ahead and blocked them. You get an opportunity, but after that, you're done. You're done. Rodgers also talked about the Packers offense having 389 total yards, 69 plays. They win the time of possession, yet you only muster 9 points and you lose.
I thought our offense was one of our better games. The way we moved the football, we threw the ball down the field, fairly effectively at times. We're just still, way too many mental mistakes. And when you have mental mistakes and then I'm turning the ball over like that, you're just not going to win the game. We've had mental mistakes and I don't turn over and we still don't win those games. So, we just got to pair up me playing a clean game and playing well and us having a real low number of mental mistakes. And because that game honestly shouldn't have been that close. We had opportunities there. We're on the 1 yard line and can't get the ball in the end zone. The other one, we have, a couple plays where we have a chance to get it in. We should be looking at least 14 points in the first half. And then who knows, second half, obviously, plays out differently with us having those points. But we beat ourselves, as we have many times this season.
And then last but not least, and you've heard it, but he talks about how he's going to greet Mike McCarthy.
I'm going to give him a big old hug. I can tell you that much. See Mike. Shared some messages the past couple weeks, and I know it means a lot to him to come back. I really do hope the reception for him is as warm as it needs to be. He's got a street named after him. Obviously, he won a Super Bowl together, but he meant a lot to the town for 13 years. A big part of our success. Obviously, being the head boss, he'll be in the Packer Hall of Fame at some point as well. And I think it's important that we honor him the right way. Not just him. Obviously, he deserves a lot of honor and respect coming back. But there's a lot of people on that staff who meant a lot to the area. A lot of former coaches with us are on that staff, including interim head coach for us, Joe Philbin. There's some former players who are on the staff, including Scotty Tolzien, Rob Davis, other coaches who are with us, like Joe
Al
Witt,
Harris.
Al Harris, former player. Awesome guy, a lot of fun together. But Mike, in general, I think deserves a lot of credit, a lot of respect, and hopefully a great ovation. Mike's got a big heart. Hopefully, hopefully lets the emotions flow a little bit.
There you go. Aaron Rodgers talking on McAfee yesterday. Let's do this. We'll step out. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, get a lot more, and we'll get some of your phone calls as well. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Potawatomi Hotel Casino. Go to paysbig.com. They have not one, but two different Chevy Tahoes you can win this month just by heading down there and checking out all the details. Go to paysbig.com. That is paysbig.com. Again, paysbig.com. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
You got to hit it.
Good to have you back. Hey, don't forget about the opening drive contest with our friends over there at Quick Trip. And I had the privilege of going out to Quick Trip last week and spending, well, as a matter of fact, a week ago, and spent the day out there on last Thursday and got a chance to see that organization for the second time, which is really, I even absorbed more the second time around, but always a pleasure to go out and check out what a great facility and a great company out of the state of Wisconsin is, and that's Quick Trip. Don't forget about the opening drive contest. You need gas anyway. You stop in, you enter in your Quick Rewards card number, and that you're automatically registered. One winner each week is going to be chosen for the opening drive of the Green Bay Packers game. And for every yard garnered in that opening drive, you're going to get a $10 gift card. So if they get 20 yards, it's $200. It's that simple. Good stuff from our friends over there at Quick Trip. Thanks to them for being a part of the program as well. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. A little bit of breaking news. The D.C. Attorney General is going to hold a press conference tomorrow at noon. They are going to, quote, make a major announcement regarding the Washington Commanders. It comes 1 week after the team hired that Bank of America to explore the sale options. Last month, the reporting showed that the D.C. Attorney General investigation was nearing completion and coming full steam ahead for Dan Snyder and the Commanders. That was according to a couple of different reporters in D.C., but it's apparently now tomorrow in Washington, D.C., the Attorney General is going to make the announcement regarding the Commanders, and I don't know if there's going to be indictments. I don't know if they're going to ask for, Daniel Snyder to come to Capitol Hill again. I couldn't honestly tell you. I don't know what specifically is going to happen, but boy, let's get your popcorn ready tomorrow. That's noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. So we'll give you some of that. We'll give you some of that for sure, at least some sound from it. But I'm sure there's going to be announcements along the way as we pay attention to to what's going on with the Washington Commanders and to see what's going to happen there. 877-867-1670. Again, 877-867-1670. You want to hit us up, feel free to go ahead and do so. Again, 877-867-1670. Ben, I am trying to follow your flow chart. I got to admit it. Because for the Badgers to win the West, please explain what your flow chart states.
I'm not really sure myself, honestly.
Because it's just, it's like hieroglyphics, man.
Yeah, there's a reason I'm in radio. Not good handwriting at all. Not very legible. I was always dinged for that.
Uh-huh.
No, on our show last night, I laid out like the easy path. They could win 3 games. Illinois loses 2. Then they make it. But that's no fun to really follow, right? Because every team is alive in the West, believe it or not. Northwestern is sitting at 1-4, I believe, 1-5. If they win out, they have a chance to win the division still, which is what makes it beautiful.
Right.
That's why, anti-playoff, pro Big Ten West. So, yeah, I went through and I got like 30% into it, and then my brain broke it down.
Okay.
But, there are ways for Wisconsin to win 1 of their remaining games, 2 remaining games, and still win the division if pure chaos ensues. And the partial flow chart is on my Twitter.
Okay, yeah. If you follow Ben, it is Purdue beats Illinois. Illinois loses to Michigan and Northwestern. Wisconsin loses to Iowa, but beats Nebraska and Minnesota. Minnesota beats Iowa and Northwestern. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Purdue, all tied at 5-4. Wisconsin then wins the West. It is this this jumble of what ifs. The bottom line is you win out and let the chips fall where they may. But it's the hieroglyphics of what if. I love it. I love it. 877-867-1670. This is from Noah. Noah says, hey, unit, there's a lot of talk about sitting Rodgers and playing Jordan Love. Do you agree with it? No, I don't. I don't. And until you are mathematically eliminated, you don't do that. You just don't go in that direction. Now, after that, we'll wait and see. Excuse me. There is a thought of getting Jordan Love some reps. But I've said this before, I'll say it again. You know what you have in Jordan Love behind closed doors. They know. And my other question is, why are so many fans screaming for Jordan Love? Is it because right now there isn't success with Aaron Rodgers and you're mad at Rodgers? Or is it because you genuinely want to see what Jordan Love brings to the table? Now, I was in a discussion yesterday that said, well, boy, they'd have at least 2 or 3 of these wins with Jordan Love. And I said, how do you know that? Because he would just throw the ball. He wouldn't care. That might be true. That might be true. I'm not gonna deny that. That might be true. He may just throw to the spot and then see what happens. The Packers are in a really tough situation, and you got to tread lightly, because the one thing you don't want to do is, and I know it sounds stupid, but the one thing you don't want to do is make a veteran of any kind look badly. You just don't. Once you've given up, like, Indianapolis, they gave up on Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's done. So they gave up on him. They're like, you know what? You're terrible. Next. Okay, that's over. Russell Wilson. Seattle didn't fight for him. They're like, go ahead and go. Get the hell out of here. Talk to you later. Bye. But you've got 2 years more, minimally, as long as he wants to come back with Aaron Rodgers, or more if he wants to stay. So you don't cross that bridge, Rodgers just talked about playing with intestinal fortitude and, conjuring up your inner competitiveness and such. You don't then turn around and go, you're benched. We're just going to see what we got, Jordan. I hope you understand. It's not going to happen. Unless you're ready to make the move to say, not gonna play in that direction. That's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. Hit us up. I want to hear from you. By the way, Rob Demoski from ESPN with a piece that said why Aaron Rodgers' contract limits the Packers' options and what could come next. They got into this, this article over on ESPN.com, and it talks about, at the time, it seemed like an easy call. If Rodgers wanted to return, you let him return. The result was a 3-year, $150 million contract extension signed this past March. Now, even after the Packers' 5th straight loss, Rodgers said he's not going to second guess his decision to return, which, I agree with. You don't do that. Because if you're sitting there going, God, I came back to this, then you should end your career. You should just walk away. I appreciated Rodgers' response. Because the team's got some tough decisions to make. Because they've got Jordan Love sitting there. They got to figure out if they want him. Rodgers has a $58.3 million option bonus in 2023 that's fully guaranteed. And then it's an option because according to, sources, it can be exercised by the Packers anytime between the first day of the 2023 league year and in March, and the day before even the Packers' first game of the regular season. Now, the option bonus makes up most of the 2023 pay, totaling $59.515 million, including a $1.65 million base salary, $50,000 off-season workout bonus, and such. Now, the timing is important because if the Packers were to trade him, they'd want the team that trades for him to pay that. There's not many teams out there that's sitting there with $60 million going, no problem, we got it. Then there's the Jordan Love factor, because the Packers have to decide whether or not they're going to exercise his 5th-year option. And that's Did you know that Jordan Love gets $20 million fully guaranteed? You know? And Gutekunst even said it's very difficult to envision a scenario in which Rodgers and Love are both on the roster in 2024. And we haven't seen enough of really Jordan Love in a game. They've seen a lot of him behind the scenes, right? So, according to many, the worst case scenario is not that Love isn't a good player. It's that he's a good player maybe for another team. So if he leaves and becomes a really solid player for somebody else, boy, then you're really in the weeds, which I don't think is going to happen. But you're really in the weeds with Packers fans. But if you keep him and he's not good and you don't get a quarterback, then you have, in essence, tied your wagon to an albatross that's eventually going to take you down anyway. You know? They're not going to win the title this year. It's hard to look at Aaron Rodgers and look him in the eye and say, we're going to bench you and put in Jordan Love to see what we've got there, to see if he's ready to take your place. You're going to piss Rodgers off, because of all the options and the bonuses and the guaranteed money. It's just widely assumed when Rodgers signed the deal that he'd play through the 2023 season. And then in 2024, his $49.25 million base salary and bonuses and such, and all of that stuff comes into play. It would fully become guaranteed if he is on the Packers 90-man roster on the 5th day following the Super Bowl play of the 2023 regular season. Now, if the contract is not adjusted further, which means they could extend that out, Rodgers would count $31.623 million on the Packers salary cap. So there's now, if Rodgers retires this offseason, which I don't think would happen, but Rodgers forfeits $58.3 million and any further compensation from the deal. So he's coming back. It's unlikely that he would walk away from that amount of money. The Packers would keep him on the roster through June 1st for cap purposes. And at that point, they could then spread out the remaining proration of the signing bonus over the 2023 and 2024 salary caps, meaning his cap charge for next season would be slightly less than $16 million. So you gain a lot of money back if he decides to walk away at the end of this, at the end of that. There's just so much to it. In the least likely scenario that they just let him go, that would mean that it would count more than $99 million in dead money on the 2023 cap, which is they can't do. It's just, there's so many different things. The bottom line is Rodgers most likely coming back. You're going to have him on the roster. You need to figure out what you want to do with Jordan Love if you don't know already. And in addition to that, you got to figure out what you're going to do to win ball games. A lot going on there, a lot to swallow. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show's next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Cool weather, brisk winds, and a hot deal. Hi, this is Gina Della from Pella. Is your home ready for winter weather? Don't wait. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years. When it's cold outside, thanks to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you'll be warm and toasty inside. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin can be installed in as little as a day, with little to no disruption to your family or your home. Plus, you'll get expert advice from our Pella specialists, professional installation by Pella's certified installers, and the excellent service our customers have come to expect. And Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin has products and warranty offers you won't find anywhere else. Don't wait for the heating bills to start piling up. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Expires 11/30/2022. Certain exclusions and restrictions apply. See showroom for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers will have a light practice to install the game plan as they host the Cowboys. Dallas coming off a bye week. Aaron Rodgers says he was stunned how many of his teammates got injured during the Lions game Sunday at Ford Field.
Just in that game, we lost Rashad Gary, Eric Stokes, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Aaron Jones. Disappointed on many levels, but there's never any concession, never any giving up. Definitely not from me, definitely not from so many of the guys that we go to battle with. We just got to find a way to get over that hump.
Rodgers on the McAfee Show. Some good news, though, about rookie wide receiver Christian Watson, who actually had the wind knocked out of him against the Lions. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur.
That was not a concussion. That was all precautionary, and I think that's just kind of the times that we live in right now and with what transpired versus Buffalo, but it was 100% ruled that it was not a concussion. As a matter of fact, he was dying to go back in the game. You know, we thought it was best to shut him down, and because of what transpired in Buffalo.
The Cowboys are 6-2. Green Bay looking to end a 5-game losing streak. Packers tight end Mercedes Lewis.
This league is unforgiving. You know what I mean? It'll humble you quick, and the margin for error is small. I mean, we still got some games left. It's a playoff mentality from here. You know, can't afford to keep dropping games, so it's going to keep chipping away at it. So you can do it. Stay in the NFL.
That's Mercedes Lewis in Green Bay. I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
comfortable throwing to? It's been something that's been ongoing for quite some time. Can you please discuss and have Andy? We will. We'll talk about it. We'll come back. For sure.
2 hours down, 2 hours yet to go. Stick around. Going to talk with Andy Herman of the Pack a Day podcast. That is coming up next on the Bill Michaels Show.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers going to be back in the field today as they start getting ready for a visit from the Cowboys this Sunday. Green Bay just 3-6 on the year and have lost 5 straight for the first time in 14 years. A lot of fingers have been pointed at the play of the offense, where the Packers are averaging just 17.1 points per game. But Coach Matt LaFleur said there's plenty of blame to go around, and everyone needs to pick their game up.
You know, we could all do a little bit better. We have to in order for us to win games. You know, it's unfortunate that we're in this situation, but we are. And so the focus is on making sure we do everything as best as we can each and every day to make sure that our process is right.
Dallas coming off its bye week and sitting at 6-2. They're led by Mike McCarthy, who's going to be back at Lambeau Field for the first time since being fired 4 years ago. Kick on Sundays at 3:25. Turn to the Badgers. They will head to Iowa this week to face the Hawkeyes. Both teams 3-3 in conference play, just a game back of first place Illinois with 3 games to play. Wisconsin's won 8 of the last 10 meetings.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
Well, the Bucs going to be back in action tonight when they take on the Thunder in Oklahoma City. Milwaukee coming off their first loss this season at Atlanta on Monday. Wisconsin now just 2 days out from facing Stanford in the Bruce City Battle at American Family Field. Badgers open the season with a win over South Dakota on Monday. And the Brewers have picked up the option on second baseman Colton Wong's contract, which will keep him around for another season. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil. Print.
Welcome back. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. Hour number 3 getting underway on this Wednesday. Don't forget, coming up tonight, we're going to be at Sunset Grill Pewaukee. Looking forward to it. 6 to 8 tonight. We're going to be there for the Bill Michaels Huddle, brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Joining us now on the hotline, our friend Andy Herman of the Pack a Day podcast. You can find him at Andy Herman NFL over on Twitter, with some good breakdowns of film and footage and such. Andy, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
So we were talking yesterday about some of the footage that's out there. I'm sure you get to the 22. I get to 22. I look at it. I think about some of the things that I see, and I'm kind of like, okay, what is going on here that I'm missing? Aaron Rodgers, there are times where he's got guys wide open and chooses not to throw the football in that direction. Sometimes he's hitting a guy in the face with a helmet, and another time it's a very, very underthrown pass, weird pass coming out of his hand to a guy like David Bakhtiari. Give me your thoughts right now on where this offense is.
Yeah, it's funny that you say, you're kind of throwing your hands up wondering what's going on. I joked earlier this week, this game led my all-time viewing record of times I threw my hands up in the air watching the film and wondering what the heck was going on, because it's just really difficult to, sort of parse and try to figure out what is going on. Why are things not clicking the way that they're supposed to? You see Josh Myers snapping it on the wrong count. You see Sammy Watkins running a slant when he's supposed to be running a fade. You see Rodgers hitting linebackers in the face mask, as you mentioned. Guys running wide open in the middle of the field. Receivers receivers not catching passes they're supposed to catch. It's just a little bit of everything, and it's so disconcerting because it's not a 1 week issue. This is something that's been going on all season long, and the inability to get almost any of it fixed is just confusing at this point. So as far as Rodgers goes, I did a big breakdown today on some of the things that have sort of gone wrong with Rodgers. It clearly, first of all, the supporting cast I don't think is what was expected and probably what he needs at this point. I think Tom Oates did a great tweet yesterday of how when Rodgers was in his prime, he had all these amazing wide receivers, and Allen Lazard is number one. He wouldn't even make the team. If you go back and look at some of those wide receiver groups, and there's certainly a level of truth to that. I think when you look at what this Packers team was expecting, and clearly the game plan going into this year was, have a better defensive side of the ball, have a better special teams, and then really sort of have Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur kind of carry this offense. And surely an Aaron Rodgers-led offense would still get you to about 24 points per game, with which a better defense and special teams should give you an opportunity to win. I think their thought was, hey, this guy's Superman. He can get us the points that we need almost individually. And it looks like a quarterback right now that no longer can do that. He can't just lift everything on his own. He's at that point in his career where he needs the pieces around him to be successful. And I don't think Green Bay's certainly done a good enough job of putting those pieces around him. Now, to be fair, when you're making the percentage of the salary cap that he's making, part of that onus is sort of on you, is just to lift everyone up and to get everyone playing at a higher level. And that hasn't happened either. So, Bill, we could go in a million different directions of what's wrong, but there's a million different fingers to point at a million different things right now.
So, here's the next question. And I know we've been asking this all season long, and I don't think there is. I personally don't think it is. But do you think this is fixable?
This season, I think they could do things that would make them more respectable for the remainder of the season. But fixable in the extent of going on a winning streak to get them into the playoffs or make them competitive for the remainder of the season? No, I don't think so. And I think things probably have to get worse before they get better. They borrowed a lot of money from future salary caps to pay for this team, to try to go all in for one more season, to try to keep that window open for as long as possible. And that bill is going to come due, specifically this offseason, but even going further than that. Aaron Rodgers' contract is abysmal going into next season, and what they can do or what they can't do, maybe more importantly. Having him retire isn't great. Cutting him is not great. Trading him is not great. There's no real great option. And then you have him coming back with a team that you're probably going to have to gut because you're paying him a bunch of money and or have already borrowed money from the cap to pay for last season and this season. They're just going to be really behind the eight ball, and it's tough to see how Brian Gutekunst could potentially put together a team that's even better than the team right now. And this team is sitting at 3-6, coming off their fifth straight loss. So, it's not great. And like I said, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better.
So, okay, let's look at next season then. If that's where we're going to go and start looking at salaries and such, do you think there's enough there and enough capability to field not just a competitive team, but to put this whole thing back on the track to say, they may have a legitimate shot at still getting deep into the postseason and or, God forbid, a Super Bowl?
Yeah, so if we're talking like next season, right? So as bad as everything broke this season, and pretty much everything broke bad, I think it's not super out of the realm of possibility that things could swing back in the other direction. I think if all of a sudden, and again, I'm not necessarily predicting this, but if all of a sudden Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins start playing like, all pro players, and Bakhtiari can actually stay healthy, Josh Myers and John Runyon Jr. Start playing the way that they're capable of. Yosh Nijman's looked more than respectable at right tackle since that move, and that offensive line comes together. You probably end up potentially with a top 10 pick in the draft. Maybe you can finally get an explosive playmaker on the outside that can open up the offense a little bit more. I'm not saying that this player exists next year, but look at what Garrett Wilson is doing for the Jets, that type of player. Justin Jefferson did for the Vikings. You all of a sudden get that type of player in, somehow find a way to get Aaron Jones back, and you have the talent on defense. Rashawn Gary's going to have to come back from a torn ACL, but you've got a Kenny Clark, a Jair Alexander. You've got pieces. Like, they just have to start playing really the way that we've seen a lot of these players be capable of playing a season ago, 2 seasons ago. and have a few things break in the right direction, find another Rasul Douglas. That may seem unrealistic, but this is still a very talented football team that hasn't played up to their potential. And you get a couple breaks next year that go your way. And yeah, I don't think that it's completely within the realm of impossibility that they could have a bounce back season at some point next year.
Defensively, how do you think they've played? Because I mean, numerically, I mean, there are times where it's the fire Joe Barry, just as the same we've heard, for forever, whatever defensive coordinator there was. If they're not hitting and taking guys' heads off, everybody needs to be fired. But statistically speaking, and for what they've been built to withstand versus what they've actually withstood, they've not played horribly. I mean, they've played poorly at times, but this is not by any stretch of the imagination the defense's fault.
No, I would definitely agree with you. At least at minimum, it's probably the least of the Packers' worries right now. I think the first thing we need to look at is how this defense was built, right? So this defense was very much built, in my opinion, to have, to play against teams when they're up, when they have an offense that's really good, an Aaron Rodgers-led offense that's putting points on the board. And if all of a sudden this defense was in a position where they were playing from ahead for the majority of the game and they didn't have to consistently be worried about the opposing team running the football and having every play at their disposal at all times, I think you'd see a lot better defense than we've seen so far. This is a defensive backfield that is meant for coverage. Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, Rasul Douglas, Amos, and Savage are far better coverage players than they are specifically set up to be run defending, tackling defensive backs. Specifically Jair, Stokes, and Savage. That's not their forte. That's not what they're good at. This linebacker core, Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker, were set up to have that speed at the linebacking core to be able to cover. Right now, Quay's a little bit undersized and not physical enough at the point of attack to consistently hold up against the run. And we know this defensive front, specifically Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, those guys want to get after the quarterback. And I think the fact that this defense has had to do so much of the heavy lifting and play in consistent games where they're either losing down double digits at times, or at least the game is close or even, it doesn't really allow them to do what they really want to be able to do, which is get after the quarterback, get in some third and long situations, obviously passing downs, and really be able to do what they do best. So I think this defense has been, poor in inopportune times. I look at this Lions game as a perfect example of that. You have the Lions getting the ball right before halftime, and they go down the field and score 8 to kind of give them the momentum in the game. And then Green Bay finally gets the touchdown to make it 8-6. And immediately, what does the defense do? They allow the team, I think, to go the Lions to go 13 plays, 70 yards for a touchdown and make it a 2-possession game. Overall, they allow basically, 2 scoring drives the entire game, but they kind of come at the most inopportune, worst times, right, when Green Bay was maybe having a chance to get into things, specifically in that second half. So things to work on, but probably the least of Green Bay's issues right now.
Yeah, I go back to the offense, and you talked about David Bakhtiari. He's in, then he's out. We don't get specific answers as to his health and how he is doing. You can't continue this. My guess is that with his salary cap hit, unless there's some kind of a massive restructure, he's not going to be here next year, right?
I would tend to agree. And there's obviously always complications here because of who your quarterback is and who the quarterback's best friends are and what his relationships are and those sort of things. Listen, David Bakhtiari is a phenomenal football player, one of the great all-time Packers, surefire Packer Hall of Famer. And, even when he's in right now, he's their best offensive lineman when he's in the game. So it's tough to just be like, you don't want to jettison that guy. You don't want to just be like, all right, we got to cut him because of a few of those reasons, right? But at some time when you're paying him the amount that you are, you need some sort of reliability. And it's the old cliche, super lame adage that the best, ability is availability. And right now, not only is it inconsistent, but it's one thing to be in and out week by week or things like that. But you don't even know going into a game if he's going to be able to finish the game or how many snaps he's going to be able to play, which really puts your offensive line behind the 8 ball, especially when we know how important continuity is along the offensive line. You look at his contract moving forward, they can basically get out of all of his 2024 salary cap hit if they move on this offseason and kind of split the 2023 cap hit between 23 and 24. There will be a real possibility that happens, as devastating and as frustrating as that is for a once all-time great Green Bay Packer.
So I feel bad that David Bakhtiari would go out that way, but I mean, it's almost 2 years, man. It's just, if you can't play effectively, I appreciate the fact that he has tried to come back and done anything and everything and so many different surgeries and wants to earn that money. But at some point, you got to say, David, enough. This has got to come to an end, because all you're doing is the uncertainty and hurting the team in a sense, and not getting that cohesiveness up front on that line of scrimmage. You're going to have to move on. I don't know if Zach Tom's the real deal or not, but certainly we're getting at least a little bit of a look at him, I guess, right? Oh, did we lose Andy?
I'll get him back.
Andy be gone. We lost Andy. Well, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We'll try to get Andy back, because Andy was he's rolling. Andy's rolling. So let's do that. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, get Andy back. Oh, nope. We got Andy back. Let's go. Is Andy there? Andy?
Yep, I'm here.
There we go. Sorry about that. I don't know if it was us or you, but regardless, I was talking about, at least we've gotten a chance to look at Zach Tom and a little bit of maybe the offensive line future, right?
Yeah, no, and I think that's been one of the few promising things for this season is Green Bay has had the opportunity to get a look at some of these rookies. And overall, I think the results have been fairly promising. Samori Toure, Romeo Dobbs, now Zach Tom, Kingsley Enagbare is going to get a lot of playing time with Rashawn Gary out. And there's certainly some promising returns there. I think it's probably time to see a little bit more of Devontae Wyatt. There's really nothing to lose at this point. His flashes on tape are still really, really fun. He's a high effort, high energy player, which is exciting. He plays with far too high of pad level, doesn't have great leverage, needs to work on his technique, which I guarantee is why he's not out there. But man, the flashes and the ability are extremely fun. So yeah, and I think even Christian Watson, I know he's not been able to stay healthy, but we've seen a couple of those flashes in some of the plays he's been able to make lately. So I think there's some real promising, return on investment and results from some of these rookies. And I'm right there with you. I don't know if Zach Tom's going to be a future starting left tackle or what he ultimately ends up being. But really, these last couple of games really struggled at the very beginning of the game, but then got kind of a foothold in the game and played really well after that. So I'm excited to see what Tom can do moving forward.
Well, that was going to be my next question. With some of the young guys, we've seen Romeo Dobbs, clearly he started to emerge before the injury. Christian Watson has had a few flashes, but he just can't stay healthy. And, maybe and I'm hoping this offseason Christian Watson goes away. He's able to get healthy. He comes back and trains like an NFL wide receiver, really begins to kind of put it together, and then, has this resurgence or an insurgence next year to where he can actually become a viable piece of the offense. I don't think that the picks are terrible. I just think that not having a veteran and or two to really, truly help Aaron Rodgers in this offense has been so incredibly detrimental.
Yeah, I think they went quantity instead of quality, right? With the wide receiver position specifically, they move on from Devontae Adams, they move on from MVS, and to some lesser extent, Equinemius St. Brown. All three of those players are gone, and they had Alan Lazard, they had Randall Cobb, Amari Rodgers. They needed to add pieces to that room. And instead of going like, hey, we're going to move up aggressively in the draft to get a Garrett Wilson or a Chris Olave, or we're going to go sign a big free agent, or we're going to trade for somebody, try for a Metcalf or a McLaurin or someone like that, they decided to sort of just go the quantity approach. And they draft a guy in the second round, they draft a guy in the fourth round, they draft a guy and they bring in a Sammy Watkins on the cheap. And I think the hope was that, hey, like we've had success bringing in a guy like Devondre Campbell or Rick Wagner and some of these guys on cheap, and they perform much better in Green Bay than they did elsewhere. There was no sign that Sammy Watkins was going to be the answer. And it's like some of those situations, like, well, maybe he just needs to be in the right offense or with the right quarterback. He played with Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Like, it's not like all of a sudden he's going to get a different quarterback and it's just going to click. It wasn't there. I don't know why they kind of thought it was going to be there in Green Bay. It hasn't been. And then, yeah, I think the flashes from all three of the rookies have been promising. And I think if you told me 2 years from now that the trio of Watson and Toure and Dobbs was a really good starting trio in the NFL, I wouldn't doubt you one bit. I think that's within the realm of possibility. But this team wasn't playing for 2024 or 2025. They were playing for 2022, and to not address that position with a more bona fide starter that they could know would be a number one wide receiver was certainly baffling and a choice and probably the wrong one.
Real quick before I let you go, should they have made a move for a true wide receiver at the trade deadline, in your opinion?
No, I'm so glad they didn't, especially after we saw this game against the Lions. I think it would have been fool's gold. I think maybe they get an extra win or two. Maybe they get that win against the Lions. But this team is not right now. They're not healthy. They're not functioning the way that they're supposed to. The acquiring of a wide receiver would not have fixed the offensive line issues, the tackling issues, all of it. And I think ultimately it would have been a Band-Aid on a fatal wound, and it just wouldn't have helped all that much. In the meantime, you take away probably a very important draft asset moving forward.
Good stuff as always, Andy. I appreciate it, and we will chat again soon, I'm sure, okay?
Thanks so much, Bill. Appreciate you.
Thanks, pal. Talk to you soon. There you go. Andy Herman of the Pack a Day Podcast. You can find him at Andy Herman NFL, at Andy Herman NFL over on Twitter, and really, really good stuff. He's makes sense. I mean, you know, as he said, it would have been putting a Band-Aid on a fatal wound if they would have made a move. But you kind of wonder if the Packers would have had enough offense to win the game against Detroit, change some things, and move forward. Kind of wonder. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends over there at Lisa Lee Ortel Real Estate. And she can help you with all the real estate needs, whether you're looking to buy, sell, invest. Gotta get a hold of her over on Facebook, or you can email her, lisamoveswi@gmail.com. lisamoveswi@gmail.com. And if you're looking to sell, you're looking to buy, I know right now rates and such in the banking industry, it's a little bit volatile, but she's got a way of navigating you through it. Call her 414-617-6798, 414-617-6798. lisamoveswi@gmail.com. They got a team of experts that she works with. They can help you get that 1% closing cost credit up to $3,000 and help you get some free mortgage or refinancing right now on loans closed this year. If you choose to do so, all you got to do is go give her a buzz and ask for her by name and ask her for all the details. Again, 414-617-6798. She is also certified as a condo specialist. So get a hold of Lisa Lee Ortel and tell her we said hi. Good stuff. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break, come back. We got a lot more to get to. More of the Bill Michael Show next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michael Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Life's about taking the road less traveled, and doing it in style, well, that makes it even better. Take the Tahoe. This November, Potawatomi is giving away not one, but 2 Chevy Tahoes. Just play with your club card and you could win a brand new Chevy Tahoe or your share of over $400,000 in cash and prizes. Your win is waiting. Take the Tahoe. Only at Potawatomi. Visit paysbig.com/Tahoe for more. Must be 21 years old and a club member to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. Hey, don't forget, next season, for the speed enthusiast in your life, the speed enthusiast maybe goes down to Great Lakes Dragaway, Union Grove. Go to GreatLakesDragaway.com. That's GreatLakesDragaway.com. And get yourself a 2023 season pass for the speed lover in your life. There you go. GreatLakesDragaway.com. They're good people down there. They run a lot of good stuff, a lot of good fun. 877-867-1670. If you want to find us, please feel free. Again, 877-867-1670. By the way, we'll have Matt LaFleur coming up here in just a little bit. But no updates right now on Eric Stokes. Hope to find out a little bit later on this week the significance of that injury. It didn't look good, though. Didn't look good at all. So nothing there right now. Fred says, I do not like catering to Aaron Rodgers. I would say sit him, tell him to sit down and shut up, and then put Jordan Love in, find out what he has. You need to know. And if Aaron doesn't understand that, then you cut him loose. Fred, that is a very, how do I look at this? It is a very much, you're going to do what I say type of stuff. You're not going to do that with Aaron Rodgers. You're just not. You're paying the guy a bunch of money to be your quarterback. Yes, you have to figure out what you've got in Jordan Love. But I keep saying, look, the bottom line is this. For people behind closed doors, they know. They know what they have in Jordan Love. Now, there was a lot of talk about him becoming more of a leader and coming in with more confidence this year and yada, yada, yada. Okay, that's great. But from week 9 last year, when he prepped for the Kansas City game, from week 9 on through the remainder of the year, going into the postseason, Rodgers, remember, had COVID toe. He was not even, whatever they want to call it, whatever the hell that is. He was not even taking starters reps. It was all Jordan Love all the time. So, to me, the loudest statement was Devonta Adams saying, I love Jordan, but, and then stop short of saying, but he's not the guy. That was a guy that worked with him every day. Every day. Is Jordan Love a quality quarterback, a good quarterback? I don't know what your level of good is. I don't know what your level of quality is. I don't know is he mediocre? Is he above mediocre? I don't think he's great. If he's great, then they would have moved on. They would have told Rodgers, take your sack of complaints and go. But they didn't. And that spoke loudly. I keep saying sometimes what's not said speaks the loudest. Yeah, Devontae liked Derek Carr, but put it this way, if he had a thought that, hey, Rodgers handing it off to Jordan Love, and Jordan Love's a guy, man, because everybody knew Rodgers was good. You didn't see it consistently in games, but everybody behind the scenes knew Rodgers was good when Favre was leaving. They knew what they had. They're not doing that with Jordan Love. They're not begging, others to leave, so to speak. So this whole thing about, you got to see what Jordan Love's got. I think the people that make the decisions know. You know, I think the people that make the decisions know. They know what they have in Jordan Love. 877-867-1670. When we come back, we're going to hear today's presser, Matt LaFleur, talking to the media. Don't forget, coming up after the top of the hour, Wayne Larrivee, the voice of the Green Bay Packers, going to be joining us as well. Tonight, we've got the Bill Michaels Huddle, and we're going to be live out at Sunset Grill out in Pewaukee Lake from 6 to 8, brought to you by our friends over there at Bud Light. They are the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Looking forward to that. And also, as I had mentioned a little bit earlier, don't forget, we're going to be out there this evening, and they have got some good drink specials going on as well. So come on out and see us tonight, Pewaukee Lake. That's the place to go. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends over at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Go to PellaWI.com. That's PellaWI.com. Give them a call now. 0 interest, 0 payments, no money down. 2 years. 2 years right now for your home. Make it more economical. Get them in now. Get them out to your home, measure them up, get signed, and then try to get them manufacturing those things as quick as possible before we get into the dead throes of winter, because you want to get your house economical the quickest you can possibly get there, right? Get into a new year with a brand new style of home, if you will. Good stuff from our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Go to PellaWI.com. Matt LaFleur coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others. Time in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or a pirate ship or a sports-themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine. A place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you. Hey, Paul Roberts, our guy Robert Specialty Meats down in Waukesha, reminding you, and he wanted me to make a mention of this, that you can call and order your turkey. And I bring this up because apparently there's a shortage of turkeys. But if you get your order in, they can get your turkey in. But if you've gone to the grocery store lately, not only have they gone way up in price, but apparently there's a shortage of turkeys as we head towards Thanksgiving. So I called Paul. I'm like, hey, can I still get a turkey? He's like, yep, we got you, but we're putting our order in here soon, and you can reserve your turkey and get whatever size you want, that type of thing. But yeah, call Paul and down at Robert Specialty Meats Waukesha, robertspecialtymeatswaukesha.com. But get your turkey. Apparently there's a shortage of turkey. Ben, did you know there's a shortage of turkeys?
Yeah, believe it or not, I've been monitoring that situation as well as many others. It's tough.
You are everywhere. You are like the news cycle. I like that. I didn't know that you were monitoring turkey sales.
Try to stay up on what's going on in the world.
Okay.
You know?
All right. Gotcha. I'm good with that. Speaking of what's going on in the world, in our world, Matt LaFleur at the podium, take a listen to what he had to say.
I do not. We hopefully will know something later in the week.
If you can't go with the plan be to go with what you've been doing with Rasul outside, Keyshawn inside.
Do you want us to tell you our game plan? We'll see. We'll see on Sunday. I'm sorry. We got to keep some things in the house, right? I'm sure you guys will be fishing in the locker room. I'm gonna make sure to remind the guys of that.
Do you need to keep Christian out at this point this week for precautionary reasons? I'm just wondering how that works. That was just for last week.
Yeah, no, he didn't even. That was on us. We held him, and that was strictly, I think, kind of where we're at with the times. And but he didn't even get hit in the head. He got hit in the shoulder, and that's why he was adamant that he was fine. And when you have a chance to sit down and slow it down, you're like, oh, yeah, and we can see that.
You're going, even with him, you're going to be without more players than a normal week with the rash of injuries that you had. How much extra work does that, especially at this point in the season, usually you kind of know what you got in terms of game planning. Just how much extra work do you have to put into the game plan to recraft some things around what you're losing?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily extra work. I think it's you're very intentional about who you're asking to do what. So, I mean, we still work crazy hours like everybody else in the league. And, but yeah, I think it's just, you could potentially simplify some things or whatnot. And in certain areas, if that's what you think is going to give you the best chance to win. But, injuries are a part of this game, and you got to be able to adapt, and you got to be able to adjust. And whether that's, in your planning or whether it's mid-game.
Man, obviously nobody wants season-ending injuries, but when you have injuries that you're just not sure about, how much harder does that make the preparation?
Well, it does complicate things, I would say, substantially, dependent upon who that is. Every situation is a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, you'd love to have a crystal ball and know exactly what you're going to get in order to prepare the guys the right way. But it is what it is. You got to make the best of it. And, I think one thing that we always do is you always try to plan for the worst and hope for the best in those in regards to injuries.
Has that part of it been one of the more difficult challenges of this season that maybe you hadn't faced the last couple of years?
If I say yes, I feel like I'm making an excuse. So like, it's football. It's professional sports, whether it's football, basketball, whatever it may be. You have to adapt, you have to adjust. And I mean, do I think it can be challenging? Absolutely. But it's nothing that, first of all, I know nobody's feeling sorry for us across the league. And I mean, we're not feeling sorry for ourselves either. You have to truly have that next man up mentality. And, when you have depth, it definitely is comforting, especially at certain positions. And when you don't have depth, it presents some challenges. So, but every team is facing these issues.
What did you see from Keyshawn on defense? It's like the third game now where he's had to get a whole lot of snaps on defense through the circumstances. What did you think of the way he plays them?
Yeah, no, I love his play style. I mean, he plays fast. He plays physical. He trusts what he sees. But it's just continuing to get more comfortable with that position and making the most of his opportunities. But I think so far up to date, he's done a pretty good job.
Matt, what's the challenge for game planning for a guy like Michael Parsons?
Well, first of all, obviously I work for Dan Quinn, and I've got as much respect for anybody in this game as I do for Dan. Like Dan he is such a humble person, great person. He was awesome to work for. And I think he's got a great football mind, and the way he moves Micah all over the field, and you don't know where he's going to be. And they could be they can just line up in a variety of different ways. And it presents a lot of challenges in terms of what you're asking your players to do. So, he's a game wrecker, especially if you let him. And then the thing is, he's not the only one. I mean, they platoon their D line, and those guys do such a great job of playing with unbelievable energy and effort, and you can truly see their play style on tape. And you got to give Dan a ton of credit in terms of the style of defense that he's playing right now, that's not what it was in Atlanta. That's not what it was in Seattle. So he's evolved, and I give him a ton of credit for, probably getting outside of his comfort zone. But it's a highly disruptive defense, a very physical defense. They do a great job of taking the ball away. They've got guys with tremendous ball skills on the back end. Obviously, everybody knows about Diggs and his ability to go get the football, but it's not just him. It's all the guys, and I think they all feed off one another. You can truly see that the DBs play a certain style because they know that there's a good chance that they're going to get home with the pass rush. So, it is going to be a great challenge, and we've played some other great defenses this year, and I'd put these guys up with anybody.
What is the staple with Dan, or maybe the 2 or 3 staples, if there's more than one, that makes him stand out as a defensive coordinator?
It's the intensity at which he coaches and being around him on a daily basis, the energy he brings. He instills confidence just how he comes across. And I think that's always a mark of a great coach. He's a hell of a communicator. And he's obviously super organized, and he can get the most out of everybody, and he'll challenge you in a really healthy, good way. I just can't, I just, like I've said, I've got so much respect for him, and you can truly see the style of play, what he wants. It doesn't matter about the scheme. The scheme's a totally different deal. It's all about style of play, and you can see that whether he was coaching in Atlanta or Seattle and now in Dallas.
What is that style?
It's 100 miles an hour. It's guys, playing every play if it were their last. I mean, you see it all over, all the guys, the hustle, and they got great players too. So that makes it that much more challenging when you can get that out of those guys. It presents a lot of challenges for an offense.
I'm sorry, Matt. It's probably too early to ask about Aaron Jones for Sunday, but is Kylan Hill ready after his whole comeback to take on a bigger role if he's asked to?
Yeah, I think so. He's been locked in. I thought he had a nice run the other day. That was good to, I think, just get that first carry out of the way. And so we'll get a good look at him throughout the week in practice. Although today's going to be just a little bit more above the neck, more jog through, just kind of where we are from an injury perspective. And then tomorrow we'll get back at it.
How have you evaluated Sammy Watkins' performance since he returned from injury?
Well, I will say this, I think Sammy's, he is a warrior, and I think he's battling through some bumps and bruises. And I think that tends to hinder your ability to go out there and be the type of receiver that we all know he is. And not to say that it's been bad. He hasn't gotten a lot of opportunity either. So, he's a guy that we're hoping that we can get him healthy to back where he was. And, we'll see where it goes. But he's a guy that we definitely have a lot of confidence in. And when early in the year, when we were producing much better on offense, he was a big reason for that. He had the setback, and that's how it goes sometimes. So we got to kind of try to reacclimate him back to our offense because we need him to be a big part of it.
Nationally, Matt, one of the storylines is your predecessor, Mike McCarthy, coming back here to Green Bay for the first time. Do you have any kind of relationship with Mike? Do you know him?
You must not see my press conference on Monday. But no, I've talked to him a few times. I think he's the guy that he definitely, in my interactions with him, he seems like a real funny guy. And I've got a lot of respect for him, first and foremost, just everything he's accomplished throughout the course of his career, obviously winning a Super Bowl here and maintaining a high level of consistency throughout his coaching career here. But you're seeing it now in Dallas as well. So, he's a great coach, and you combine that with great scheme, it presents some problem.
We go back to Dan. When you're having to face that defense in practice every day, did it teach you anything from an offensive point of view that you kind of still keep with you?
Oh, many things. It's just a lot of, I think my own personal coaching philosophy is feeding off and learning from him, just in terms of, you know, a lot of things that we incorporated here are a direct reflection of what we did in Atlanta. I'd never seen a basketball hoop in a team meeting room before I got into Atlanta, and that's something we have here. Just so many things, from how we practice, you know, how we do everything, the team meetings, how we communicate, the messaging to the team. I can't tell you how much that of an impact he's had on me personally.
So there you go. Matt LaFleur is speaking today. Interesting stuff early on when he was talking about some of the injuries and some of the guys that may or may not be playing. Christian Watson didn't really bang his head. So when you talk about the sound, at least, as if he may play in this upcoming contest, not a bad way to go. So maybe he'll be back in. Kylan Hill looks like he'll be back and ready to go. They're hoping to get some of these guys back. They're waiting to find out on some of the players that have, you know, kind of been in the trainer's room. But you know, I understand he's a little testy too. You know, when you start talking about, you know, questions that were asked, well, I guess you weren't listening. You know, there's no reason to do that, but he's testy, and I understand it. And he's talking about, you know, obviously, you know, his predecessor coming back with a successful team, trying to get a win. He's not going to give away game plans. And right now they are completely under the gun. So I completely get where he's coming from. We're going to step away, take a quick break, come back. A lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's coming up right after this.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers getting ready to host the Dallas Cowboys here on Sunday. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones says that Aaron Rodgers threw to Jared Cook to set up a Mason Crosby field goal to win the divisional playoffs back in 2016 in Dallas was tough, but he's still upset about a play the year before here at Lambeau Field.
You've had some tough battles with Aaron Rodgers over the years. Is there any player you can think of that's caused you more football heartache?
That pass he threw out here, that he threw on the sideline, that at the end of the ball game, it seems like, because he's quarterback, it seems like he's made the plays. The biggest heartbreak play he wasn't involved in, and that was the one of Dez Bryant when they ruled he didn't have the catch. That's the one that stands out the most.
Jones on the Fan in Dallas. We spoke to Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy on the phone, who says that coaches get fired, but being let go by the Packers with still 4 games left to play in the schedule left what he calls a dent in his family.
The exit, I definitely was not a fan of. And, it left a dent with our family. But the year off, the opportunity to be together and do the things we did, I think in hindsight, turns out to be one of the best things that we were able to go through.
So how will McCarthy be received before this Sunday's game? Aaron Rodgers on the McAfee Show.
I'm going to give him a big old hug. I can tell you that much. See, Mike, shared some messages the past couple weeks, and I know it means a lot to him to come back. I really do hope the reception for him is as warm as it needs to be.
That's Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
Welcome back to the program. Hey, if somebody's in lacrosse, let me know. Did Fritzy win last night? Did our guy Fritz out there, the sheriff, win? That's the only political thing that I'll do. Just an FYI. Just checking. Did Fritzy win last night? I got a couple of people that did text me that were in lacrosse over the last couple of days. It said they did get a chance to stop at Buzzard Billy's. Love the Cajun catfish. And I got to agree with you there. But they got some good drinks. And you go upstairs at the Starlight Lounge. Great place to go. But I don't know. I had Matt had texted me, or not texted me, but hit me up on Twitter and said, hey, did your guy Fritz win out in lacrosse last night? And I don't know. Let me know. Let me know if Fritzy won. Speaking of tweets, Matt Schneidman.
Sources tell me no, by the way.
Say no?
He did not win.
He did not win? Oh, my goodness. That's a shame. Fritzy's a good dude, man. Matt Schneidman says players on the 53 not practicing today. No Rodgers, no Bakhtiari, no Elton Jenkins, no Rashawn Gary, obviously. Romeo Doubs, no. Eric Stokes, no. Sammy Watkins, no. Devondre Campbell, no. Chris Barnes, no. Shamar Jean-Charles, no. Aaron Jones, by the way, is practicing today. So that's one banged-up team right there. I don't care who you are. That is one banged-up team out there. Man, oh, man. 877-867-1670. Robert says, if they sit Aaron Rodgers and play Jordan Love, how mad is Rodgers going to be, and does that put us into a financial cap situation? Well, we went through that a little bit earlier, and this whole thing is moot, okay? Let me say this. Let's put this to bed, all right? Unless Rodgers gets hurt, he's not going to sit. Okay? There's a couple of reasons why. First of all, because until they're mathematically eliminated, you continue to play like you want to win. That's first. Secondly, you still got to get on the same page with the young guys. You still got to get this offense functioning in some semblance of order heading into next year. Thirdly, you're paying a man a ton of money. Right? You're paying him a ton of money. And if you want this thing to work out, as we heard a little bit earlier when we were talking with our guy, Mark Schofield, and we were talking with our guys over at Andy Herman and the Pack a Day podcast and such. We were talking with those guys about, would you sit Rodgers? You're not going to piss him off and then kind of throw away next year unless you know he's not coming back. If you know he's not coming back, you got to defer some money. Okay, whatever. There's some things to be made. If you know you're going to trade him away, okay, you understand it. But let me just say this. For all the speculation, would you, should you, could you, will there be an opportunity? An opportunity may present itself. But they are not going to sit Aaron Rodgers. Not going to happen. They're not going to just sit him. Unless, of course, they're saying, you know what, the thumb is not healing. It's really banged up. We want to make sure he's good to go later down the road. Okay, you can use that as an excuse. But if Rodgers looks at this as like, hey, I'm just trying to salvage something. And between you, me, and the fence post, we all know he's going to want some more statistics out of this thing. This is going to end up being probably one of his worst statistical seasons ever. And he's going to try to build more touchdowns and keep away from the picks and keep that touchdown to interception ratio, which is one of the best, if not the best, in all of football ever. He's going to make sure that he keeps that thing separate and keeps that going in a positive direction the best he can. So I really believe he's going to continue to play. He's going to continue to try to at least lift this team up, lift up the guys around him, statistically add to his repertoire and go on. That's what I believe. Coming up next, the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee, is going to join us. Stay right where you're at. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. Another hour yet to go. Don't forget, coming up tonight, we're going to be at the Sunset Grill in Pewaukee, 6 to 8 tonight. Brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. They are the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. It's the Huddle coming up tonight, 6 to 8, Sunset Grill in Pewaukee. I will see you out there. Stay tuned. Another hour yet to go. Wayne Larrivee coming up next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers going to be back in the field today as they start getting ready for a visit from the Cowboys this Sunday. Green Bay just 3-6 on the year and have lost 5 straight for the first time in 14 years. A lot of fingers have been pointed at the play of the offense, where the Packers are averaging just 17.1 points per game. But Coach Matt LaFleur said there's plenty of blame to go around, and everyone needs to pick their game up.
You know, we could all do a little bit better. We have to in order for us to win games. You know, it's unfortunate that we're in this situation, but we are. And so the focus is on making sure we do everything as best as we can each and every day to make sure that our process is right.
Dallas coming off its bye week and sitting at 6-2. They're led by Mike McCarthy, who's going to be back at Lambeau Field for the first time since being fired 4 years ago. Kick on Sundays at 3:25. Turn to the Badgers. They will head to Iowa this week to face the Hawkeyes. Both teams 3-3 in conference play, just a game back of first place Illinois with 3 games to play. Wisconsin's won 8 of the last 10 meetings.
Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Get insurance from a company who knows Wisconsin and cares about your community. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home and auto rates? Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more about products and discounts.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Bucs are going to be back in action tonight when they take on the Thunder in Oklahoma City. Milwaukee coming off their first loss this season at Atlanta on Monday. Wisconsin now just 2 days out from facing Stanford in the Bruce City Battle at American Family Field. Badgers open the season with a win over South Dakota on Monday. And the Brewers have picked up the option on second baseman Colton Wong's contract, which will keep him around for another season. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Talking some Packers football. Packers now back on the practice field getting ready for the game this coming weekend. Mike McCarthy returning back to Lambeau Field. And it seems like a lot of the feelings, the emotions and such have kind of subsided as the way Mike was kind of let go. I know it still sticks with him a little bit, but looks like he's very much looking forward to coming back to Lambeau. And he's got a winning team, obviously. The Packers reeling in the meantime. And joining us now, the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee. Wayne, thanks for taking a couple of minutes. It's going to be interesting to see Mike back at Lambeau Field, isn't it?
Yeah, it really will. Especially wearing the Cowboys blue and gray. That'll be interesting to see, or silver, I should say.
Yeah, well, you spent a lot of time with Mike because you guys would sit down in his office and do the pregame show and talk both on mic and off mic, talk a lot of football. And give me your thoughts just on Mike McCarthy, the coach, the person.
Well, he is I think he's a wonderful person. I really do, and I enjoyed visiting with him. And as you know, I don't get along with all head coaches, that I've had a chance to be with, but certainly Marv Levy and Mike McCarthy are two that I really, really have enjoyed being with and getting to know a little bit. Mike is as down to earth as it gets. He never loses his sense of humor, that kind of thing. He's always kind of joking around a little bit. There's a mischievous type of aspect to his nature that I think is very endearing if you get to know him a little bit. But make no mistake, he knows the X's and O's. He's been portrayed in late years in Green Bay and early years in Dallas as someone who didn't know what was going on at the end of ball games and that type of thing, and nothing could be further from the truth. As is the case in our society, perception is also almost always wrong. Mike McCarthy is a very sharp, very good football coach, and his record proves it.
So this game coming up for the Packers, looking at their side of the coin, needed it in Detroit. It just didn't materialize. Things just, for whatever reason, just aren't coming together. It's a pass here. It's a block here. It's a route here. Wayne, I can't remember the last time I saw this many just kind of self-inflicted wounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Bill, they haven't been in a situation like this in I don't know how long. It has really been, you'd have to go back. You'd have to go back to the end of the Mike Sherman regime, that 2005 season, where it all fell apart. But not a lot was expected of that team. I mean, there were a lot of football people around the league. I'm not talking about in Green Bay or in Wisconsin, but a lot of football people around the league had the Packers as a true Super Bowl contender this year, even without Devontae Adams and all of that. But, this is where it's really when your team in the NFL doesn't reach the expectation level that it's expected, that's when you get really disappointed. And I think that's what everyone's feeling right now.
The offense, and I want to say the dysfunctionality almost, it's just been a tough year. I mean, with Bakhtiari in and out, shuffling the offensive linemen around, injuries, not being able to really consistently use Christian Watson, who you kind of went all in on. He shows some glimpses. Romeo Doubs shows glimpses, and then all of a sudden guys are getting hurt. How do I put this? Do you see any way for this team to kind of pull out of this nosedive?
Well, that's not for me to say, but I will say this about the offense. And I'll go back to you and I when we got here in '99.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen a less experienced, less accomplished group of receivers in Green Bay on a given season?
No.
I don't know if I ever have.
No, I would agree with
There's
that.
always been a Donald Driver. There's always been a Greg Jennings. There's always been a Jordy Nelson. There's always been a Devontae Adams. And there's nothing of that ilk. Go up and down. I don't care, injuries or not,
Yeah.
And I'm not being critical of these people, but, the promising receivers are Watson, Toure, and Dobbs, and they're rookies. I mean, we in this league expect way too much from rookies. And I think these kids have done well for what they've been able to do, but they're rookies. And this is a man's league. This is not Wisconsin playing East Tennessee State in the middle of August, trying to get a non-conference win. This is every week you got to strap your chin strap on and go after it. And it's not easy for rookies to make this adjustment. I think they've done really well in the time they've gotten on the field. Anxious to see what Toure can do going forward. Would love to see Watson be able to stay on the field. He's been injury riddled, as you know, and he's a good kid, and I think he's going to be a very good player. Unfortunate for Dobbs. He was coming on and coming along, and I think he could have made a nice difference going forward, but that injury is going to put him on the shelf for a few weeks, and rookies can't afford that.
Go back to your question. You said, do we expect too much from the rookies? Did we expect too much from Aaron Rodgers?
Well, yes and no. I mean, the great quarterbacks in this league, we expect them to be able to play at an MVP level regardless of who they have around them. And That's almost never correct. You have to have some help. I mean, you've got to have a decent offensive line. You have to have go-to receivers who can threaten a defense downfield. You know what I mean? I think running the offense through the two running backs is the smart thing to do. They're playmakers, and quick passing, that type of thing. And I think Rodgers leads the league in passes thrown behind the line of scrimmage this year, which is not a stat anybody would want to brag about, but it's the truth. And it's the way the offense has had to be run. The offensive line has been in a state of flux with people coming on and coming off and back and forth. All this is happening, but you can control time of possession. You can make yards, but if you can't threaten a defense downfield, if you can't throw the ball at the heart of that defense and beat it or threaten to beat it, you're not going to score enough points to win in this league. You just aren't. You've got to be able to do that. And I've talked to Matt LaFleur about that. He feels the same way. You've got to be able to, at some point, threaten a defense through the air downfield. All the other ball control stuff is great, but you're not going to score enough points doing that if that's all you can do.
Talking with Wayne Larrivee, the voice of the Green Bay Packers. You can find him at Wayne Larrivee over on Twitter. Wayne, when you talk with Matt LaFleur, nationally, everybody's saying, well, is it time to bring in Jordan Love? And I said, look, first of all, mathematically, if you're not eliminated, you keep Aaron Rodgers in, unless he's hurt and he just can't go or he's hurting the team. Because I know your counterpart, Larry McCarron, has always told me you can play hurting, but you can't play and hurt the team. So, I mean, there's a big difference there. Guys ache all the time. It's football. It is what it is. So I don't think he's hurting the team. So do you think there's any consideration for Jordan Love? And secondly, I tend to feel, and, you can correct me if I'm wrong, behind closed doors, they know what they have in Jordan Love pretty much, right?
I think by now they do. They know what kind of kid he is for sure. They've seen him in game action. I think they have an idea of what they have in him. And nobody has said what they're not sitting there like they were in 2007, 2008 and saying, hey, we got somebody almost as good as our starter right now sitting on the bench. I'm not hearing any of that talk, but then again, no one said anything one way or the other in terms of, is Jordan Love ready? Is he the future? That kind of thing. I'm assuming they know what they've got. And as far as Brett, a lot of talk with Aaron Rodgers about that thumb injury. Brett Favre went through the same thing at different points in his career. Quarterbacks are going to get their hands nicked up a little bit along the way as they hang in the pocket and try to make plays and make throws. I don't know. Boy, a lot of people are speculating that this thumb injury has got to be part of the reason why Aaron is missing receivers and not as accurate as he was the last 2 years. Go back to the first month of the season before that injury happened. Was he any sharper, any more accurate then than he is now? To my naked eye, I would say no.
I look at the running back position. There was a lot of screaming early on to say, hey, why aren't you getting the ball into the hands of Aaron Jones more? And then this particular game, Jones obviously gets hurt in the second half, so they couldn't use him as much. The run game has been – I just look at the run game as it should be running to set up the pass, not vice versa. And they've been accused of running plays as if they're still scheming for Devontae, as if he's there. So with how frustrating right now do you think it is behind closed doors of this offense being as inept as it has been in the run game, not being used as much as maybe a lot of us believe it should be?
Yeah, I don't know how much gnashing of teeth. I think they're just trying to find a way to win a game, Bill. And this season has spiraled the wrong way, and it happens all the time in the NFL to good teams as well as bad teams. But when a season starts spiraling like this, you're just trying to win a game any way you can. Whether you throw it 60 times or run it 100 times, anything you can do to just win a game. The ground game hasn't been unproductive. I wouldn't say that. Now, they've only scored 3 rushing touchdowns, but they're averaging almost 5 yards a running attempt. Aaron Jones is averaging 5.6, A.J. Dillon 4.0. The difference I see with A.J. is that I don't see him getting as many yards after contact as I was used to seeing him last year and the year before, but that's a small thing. And Jones is their second leading receiver, 210 receiving yards. He's 12th in the league in all-purpose yardage. So, those guys have pretty much done what's been asked of them. I think people on the outside think they should be asking more. I think what they're hoping to get somewhere along the line is some kind of balance of basically what I was talking about a few minutes ago, Bill, and trying to balance this thing. Yeah, you want to run it through these backs. They're your playmakers. They're your steady people. But you also got to threaten something, downfield. You have to threaten the defense downfield. And if you don't do that, then you're going to see a lot of single safety high, extra man in the box, going to be harder to run, and press coverage on the corners. And people are going to say, beat us with the pass, whereas that was never the case in the past.
Wayne, the defensive side of the football, Devontae Wyatt, Quay Walker, give me your synopsis of the young guys and what they've done so far.
I think Quay's done really well, and I think he keeps getting better. And I know now they're going to have to be blitzing him more because Rashawn Gary is not there. They've got to generate pressure on the quarterback. Kingsley Enikbari, JJ, as they call him, at outside linebacker, he's coming on, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And, had a sack wiped out because his hand hit the helmet of the quarterback in Detroit, that kind of thing. But this kid's coming on. He's active. He fell in the draft because he ran a 4.640. Anybody who had the time to slap on tape of his work in college, he's a football player. In this time, I'm sorry, but personnel people, and I love them, and I love our personnel guys. Personnel people get too tied up in a 40-yard dash, okay? Play speed is everything. That's what football is about. It's about play speed. Don't tell me how fast you are in the 40. Tell me how fast you play. How fast can you get to the quarterback? How fast can you get sideline to sideline, running down a back or a wide receiver, that kind of thing. So this kid, I think, is got a chance, and I think we're going to start seeing it to really develop into a really good pass rusher for the Packers, perhaps. And that'll be great next year when Gary gets back. Quay, I think, has done very well. Still learning on the job, obviously. Probably the toughest thing for him is to, recognize what's coming up and anticipating. The instinct part of it is probably the one area where he's still, work in progress, maybe in pass coverage as well. But I think he's been great, and really I think he's got a good future ahead of him. When you look at Devontae Wyatt, he's getting on the field a little bit more, and this is the guy I'd like to see a little bit more of on the field up front because frankly, in the last few weeks, the Packers haven't had many. I think they've had 3 sacks in the last 3 games, and although in some of those games they've gotten pressure, they haven't gotten home. And part of that, you would like to see your defensive line play a little bit bigger role there, and maybe the second half of the season, Devontae Wyatt can do that for him.
Give me real quick, because I thought Mason Crosby, very quietly, for those that don't pay attention, he's having a decent season. He doesn't have a lot of opportunities, obviously. It's not like he's got 20, kicks so far, but he's only got 11, missed 2. 1 was blocked on a bad snap. He's only missed 1, and both of his misses have come from 45 or beyond. So very quietly, I thought he's having a bounce-back season, Wayne.
As a field goal kicker, I would agree with you, yes. No question about that. But, in terms of kickoffs, reaching the end zone or touchbacks, he's only got 9. I think that ranks in the bottom third of the league. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not sure in that regard, kickoffs, field goal kickers kick field goals for a long time. And a lot of times the punter ends up making the kickoffs. But that's not going to be the case here. Mason still has plenty of leg strength. But I think he's had a nice bounce back year. And I will attribute some of it, obviously, to Mason, but also to Pat O'Donnell, the punter, who's been a great holder. And Jack Coco is a rookie deep snapper. Sometimes the snap's there, sometimes it's not. But he's been getting better and better, I think, as the season goes along. So I think the operation is what we're seeing is the big improvement. The bounce back in that aspect of special teams has been in the operation of the field goal kicks.
Wayne, great stuff as always. Wish you luck on Sunday, man. It's tough.
Right,
I know it's tough. We haven't seen many of these together. These seasons like this don't come very often.
And thank God they don't.
Right?
So, we'll make the best of it. Hey, they're going to give the Cowboys heck on Sunday, and who knows, maybe they'll beat them. Anything can happen in this league.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
You bet.
There you go. Wayne Larrivee, the voice of the Green Bay Packers, joining us for a couple of minutes on the hotline. Good stuff from him. 877-867-1670. We're going to take your phone calls from here on out. 877-867-1670. Give us a shout. We'd love to hear from you. This portion of the program brought to you by our good friends over there at Epoxy Flooring Done Right. Sean and the gang at Epoxy. He just got back from vacation. I know he was gone for a while. Epoxy Flooring Done Right, providing Wisconsin home and business owners
Epoxy flooring and coating services at reasonable prices, top quality workmanship. He does different colors, different finishes. Did the gym in my house, which is fantastic. I'm going to have him come back in the spring and do the garage floor. It's like it's time. I'm going to clean the garage out and do the garage floor. Even painting the rooms that they're doing, they can do that as well. Give Sean a call, 262-443-2852 from Milwaukee to Racine, to Green Bay, to Madison. I mean, you can go all over. Kenosha. They go everywhere. Go to epoxyflooringdoneright.com. That is epoxyflooringdoneright.com. Or call Sean directly, 262-443-2852. 262-443-2852. Stay tuned. We're going to talk more with you. Your phone calls for the next 3 segments coming up right after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Cool weather, brisk winds, and a hot deal. Hi, this is Gina Della from Pella. Is your home ready for winter weather? Don't wait. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years. When it's cold outside, thanks to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you'll be warm and toasty inside. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin can be installed in as little as a day, with little to no disruption to your family or your home. Plus, you'll get expert advice from our Pella specialists, professional installation by Pella's certified installers, and the excellent service our customers have come to expect. And Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin has products and warranty offers you won't find anywhere else. Don't wait for the heating bills to start piling up. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Expires 11/30/2022. Certain exclusions and restrictions apply. See showroom for details.
Here they come, the holidays. What to get the special people in your life? Good food? Better yet, great meat. Go to ScholzieFamilyBeef.com. That's ScholzieFamilyBeef.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. Bill Michaels Show continues on. Hey, don't forget about our buddy Lyle and the gang at J&L Tire Service and Center out there in Oconomowoc, or not Oconomowoc, out there in Johnson Creek. Featuring Goodyear, Dunlop, Kelly tires, but they're best known for their service, the wonderful deeds of kindness they do in the community as well. Truck drivers, they are highly rated when it comes to your trailer repair. They can do it all out there, right off of 94 Johnson Creek and in Watertown. That's jnltire.com. That's jnltire.com. If you want to get a hold of us, 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Hit us up. So Jeremy Fowler says some of the young wide receivers have been painted as scapegoats for the Packers' problems, despite Aaron Rodgers' absence during OTAs, which is not sitting well with some, apparently. That there's frustration over the defense, particularly on the back end, where communication and the game plan issues have persisted. That they are trying to stick together, but a tough schedule coupled with a barrage of injuries makes this near insurmountable. Other than that, everything is great. I don't get to see the Green Bay. I don't get the sense Green Bay plans to turn to Jordan Love anytime soon. There's a very real chance at sub 500 that a sub 500 team could sneak into the NFC playoffs, which would provide a glimmer of hope. This is an organization with a great deal of pride. Aaron Rodgers, despite all the struggles, still one of the best passers on the planet, but the Packers will need some old-fashioned luck over the next month to actually have a chance. So there you go. There you go. So that goes back for a while with I think there was like a Twitter argument, Ben. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that John Kuhn and Peter Bukowski?
Yeah, some would call it an argument, definitely.
Okay.
They were going at each other.
A Twitter argument. See,
beef is what the kids call it.
Okay.
Speaking of beef, Robert's specialty meats. There you go.
Beef between the two. Oh, I love the drop-in. Dynamite. Nice job right there, although we already did the Robert special, but I'll do it again. Robert's, you can order your turkey from Robert's right now. Get a hold of Paul Roberts. Paul Roberts was actually, I talked to him, was it yesterday or the day before? It was Monday, as a matter of fact. And I called him and I had said, hey, Paul, I need to order my turkey. And he said, okay, I got you down because we're going to do like a 12-pound turkey. It's just me, Kristen, and the kids. And so I was talking to him. He's going up north to check and make sure his deer stand was all good. He's all wound up. I either up north or over to the family farm, wherever that is. I think it's out west. But he was heading to check his deer stand. So he's all wound up.
By the way, for what it's worth,
yes,
there is a turkey shortage in this country because of the avian flu. Killed more than 45 million birds since this year started.
The avian flu. Okay. I did not know. Kristen was telling me you better order it now. And then I yesterday, I told you I went to the grocery store. So I thought, well, I'll walk through the grocery store and there's a few turkeys there. But I was looking at the price. I'm like, holy crap. I mean, $40-50 for a turkey is like, wow. I don't remember. It's like Christmas trees. You got to order your Christmas tree because there's a Christmas tree shortage. And there's going to be for the next couple of years because there was a drought a few years back that caused the stunt to stunt the growth of Christmas trees up in Canada or something like that. And I don't even know about here in our own backyard. But there's a Christmas tree shortage. Everything's running short. It's like supply chain issues. Everything sucks. That's what I know. Everything's going up and everything sucks. But I've already pre-ordered my Christmas tree too. So I'm supposed to go get that the day before Thanksgiving.
The Christmas tree part actually goes back. They started planting less around 20 years ago.
Really?
Not due to supply chain stuff, believe it or not.
Well, I know that they said a few years back that there was this a couple of years of drought, which really stunted the growth of a lot of trees, and they don't want to cut them down prematurely, so they weren't going to cut. They weren't going to do mass cutting on Christmas trees, so I don't know.
Yeah, operating costs of tree farms have also risen.
That too, and I love a real Christmas tree. Now I'm going to admit this. I have 4 of them in my house. One is real. And the other 3 are fake. But if I cannot find a good, I just can't bring myself to spend money on a really realistic looking Christmas tree. Some of them are just ridiculous. Did you see what some of these fake Christmas trees are going for? And these are pre-lits. If you go with even one that isn't pre-lit, that you got to do the work on yourself, it's almost the same cost. And I can't bring myself to buy one. I was in Home Goods the other day, and I know we're way off topic. So for those that are calling in or wanting to talk sports, I apologize. But I was in Home Goods the other day, and they have these really nice, like in these kind of old-fashioned looking, these old, tin wash tub type of Christmas trees, and they're pre-lit, and they've got some of that flocking on it, and it's perfect. It would be perfect for my bar because my old Christmas tree is kind of half of it lights up and half of it doesn't, so I got to put lights on it. So I thought, well, this would be great. I'll pick this up, and I'm sure I'm getting it at a discount. Holy crap! It's like $300, and it's only 4 feet tall. I was blown away at how expensive some of this stuff has gotten. I'm like, look, I'm just going to pull some weeds from outside, stick them in a planter, and throw some presents under that and call it a day before I go out and spend that kind of money on a small Christmas tree. But we got the Christmas party coming up for, the workers and sponsors. Are you coming, by the way, this year? Are you going to make the trek or are you not? Because I send out an email and nobody answers me. Or maybe I should
determined.
Maybe I should just take the hint that you guys think I suck and you won't come.
No, to be determined. Okay. It's there's a lot going on in this part of,
Okay. Well, on that particular day, this is one of those parties you take off for. You make plans to get away for, because it's that good. Just throwing it out there. All right, let's do this. I have gone on long enough. We're going to go ahead and go back into sports in that discussion when we come back. Stick around. We're going to go ahead and pick up where we left off regarding the Packers and such. I do have some emails that I want to get to regarding Brewers baseball, so I'll get into that as well. But we'll open it up the next couple of segments. 877-867-1670. Want to find us, please feel free. Go ahead and do so. Again, 877-867-1670. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. 2 more segments of you and me and maybe less Christmas tree talk coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Life's about taking the road less traveled, and doing it in style, well, that makes it even better. Take the Tahoe. This November, Potawatomi is giving away not 1, but 2 Chevy Tahoes. Just play with your club card and you could win a brand new Chevy Tahoe or your share of over $400,000 in cash and prizes. Your win is waiting. Take the Tahoe. Only at Potawatomi. Visit paysbig.com/Tahoe for more. Must be 21 years old and a club member to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
It's that time of year when you start to head out and look for different Christmas things to do. And I know it's early. I get it. But if you want to get tickets for something coming up in December, the Christmas O'Carolyn featuring Larrivee Road. And I say it in the Irish sense because the Irish Cultural and Heritage Center has the concert coming up December 18th. December 3rd, they've got the Christmas Tradition with Rory Mackham, and he's coming to town. But if you want to get tickets, and I would recommend you do because they sell out quick. If you're looking for something just very traditional, and very, I don't want to say Irish, but nevertheless, get a hold of our friends at the Irish Cultural Heritage Center. It's you can go to ICHC.net, and to get a hold of our guy Corey over there and check him out. And he's just a good dude, but they've got a lot of good stuff coming up. And that's the Irish Cultural Heritage Center. It's right on Wisconsin Avenue in the Milwaukee area. So there you go. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You want to give us a shout, please feel free to go ahead and do so. So, Ben, this whole thing about the wide receivers being a little upset, I find it interesting. Obviously, we haven't heard anything, but with the Packers wide receivers, the young ones, let Cobby coach him up. Remember, that was the big thing coming out of Aaron Rodgers prior to the season. Let Cobby coach him up, and that way, when I get there, they're ready, and we can all get on the same page. And it just hasn't materialized that way, as we all know. Do you think
Rodgers cares if the young guys are upset?
Wow, that's a big one. Huh. I mean,
if this is true, now I'm throwing it out there as this big if, because this is what Jeremy Fowler is putting out there and everything, that there was the rumor that some of the young guys, some of the wide receivers, he wasn't there for the OTAs, he wasn't there for the mini camp, he wasn't there for all of that stuff. And, Cobby was coaching them up, and they're getting thrown to by Jordan Love, and Rodgers comes in and then can't get on the same page, and he's yelling at them, and he's kind of calling guys out in the media. And now they're like, well, look, you may be great, but you're not there with us. You're not working with us, that type of thing. So is this all going to happen? If they are indeed upset, do you think by any stretch of the imagination, Aaron Rodgers is bothered by this?
I would wonder if he views it at, like, when he goes on McAfee and talked about the receivers, that was weeks ago. I imagine he thinks it's the leadership, or he thinks it's what's going to drive them to be better.
Right.
So with that, I would assume not.
See, if I'm a rookie coming in, I want to play with Aaron Rodgers. I want him there at the OTAs, man. I want to catch passes from this guy. I want to get on the same page with him. I want to get his approval. You know what I mean? And then instead, and again, I'm not sitting here to knock Rodgers. We're only going by what is being reported. So this is nothing that's coming from us. I'm only simply throwing it out there. If you look at this and you say, well, Rodgers wasn't there, and then he comes back in, at training camp and expects them all to be on the same page. But you got a long period of time of training camp to also build those relationships in defense of Aaron Rodgers. But these guys are saying, well, we put the work in. We started, learning, way back when. We could have learned with and from Rodgers instead of Rodgers writing back in and then criticizing us. That's even if that's what's being specifically said behind closed doors. You know what I mean? You wonder how much of that is 100% and how much of that is being embellished. And I'm not talking about by Jeremy Fowler, but by whoever is telling him this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I also wonder how much Rodgers' play has to do with all this. Like, if Rodgers was playing lights out and we saw clearly other things going on that is keeping the team from winning, you wonder how different their acceptance of it would be.
Right.
And this is if all of it is true. Some of it could boil down to the fact that Rodgers is just not playing good football.
Which is true. I mean, but then again, if this was all spot on, then we would assume if Rodgers was playing lights out, then we would assume that everything's okay. Right?
Well, lights out could mean also, like, no goal line interceptions, and maybe not MVP level Rodgers, but no turnovers, and maybe a clear lack of continuity with the wide receivers. It's somewhere in the middle from MVP level and where we're at now, I guess.
Our buddy Dwayne up in Wausau says, I believe you brought this up the other day, but if, say, Goody, you put your Goody hat on, and if Green Bay ends up with a top 5 pick, and you've got the Alabama and the Ohio State quarterback both sitting there, what would you do? Ooh. Would you take CJ Stroud?
Yeah, but you know how I view Ohio State quarterbacks.
Right. Me too. I agree with
that. I don't think I would unless I knew that Jordan Love wasn't the answer. So that would then infer the fact that we have seen him for weeks this season, which I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah. Would you go? Now, you got to believe that Jordan Love is not the guy, that what you would be getting in either quarterback is far better than what you already have in Jordan Love. You know what I mean? You would have to make that determination right now. That, a guy like CJ Stroud will say is better than Jordan Love walking through the door.
And then the other aspect of that is, do you go after, for the first time in a long time, do you go after, say, a wide receiver? You know, one of the big time wideouts. Do you go in that direction? Or, another playmaker? I'm not going after another defensive back. I'll tell you that right damn now. But do you go in a different direction in that sense? As one of the big time wideouts that are there.
Give me a big receiving tight end. Just play inline forever.
Yeah, that isn't.
Get back to our roots.
Man, you're crazy today. But I don't know. Would I go Bryce Young? Would I go C.J. Stroud? Or would I go with one of the top wide receivers that are out there right now? How good are they? Because God knows you need wide receivers. I don't know. That's a great question. That's a great question. Oof. I'd have to really sit down and take a look at. They haven't put out any kind of a mock draft yet, so I don't want to go there. But if I had a top 5, here's the other thing, and this is something else to think about. If you have, say, a top 5, okay, top 5, and you don't need a quarterback, would you trade out and get additional, first round picks, move down, and then get another guy that maybe you can trade and get the guy you want? You know what I mean?
The problem is it's not that good of a class comparatively. Right. Next year might be the year because you got Drake May from UNC.
Right.
Potentially Quinn Ewers. Stroud and Bryce Young are good, but Will Levis has had a rough year. Anthony Richardson
that's my point. That's my point. Well, I don't think I'm not dropping down to get a quarterback. My point is if somebody wants to jump up to, say, number 5 or number 4 because we stink and get themselves a quarterback, do you then sell that pick? Do you then trade out of it, move down a little bit, and get, say, one of the top wideouts? Because you've got plenty of guys out there right now that have solid seasons going on right now. But do you go with one of the top wideouts that are on the board? Do you go with Jalen Hyatt, say, out of Tennessee? I mean, that guy's got close to 1,000 yards, 14 touchdown catches. He's just been phenomenal all season long. Would you go in that direction? And move down to try to get one of those guys. Marvin Harrison Jr., another guy coming out of Ohio State. Would you go in that direction? He's got 10 touchdowns.
Don't think he's eligible.
Oh, that's right. He's a freshman, right?
Sophomore.
Okay. Okay, yeah, he would be a sophomore. Okay.
Smith and Jigba, though, hasn't played all year, and he's billed as maybe the best of all.
Right. So I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I hate to get that far into the weeds because this is so far down the road, and this is so much different thought process at this point. But
in that setting, the Packers win what? 4 games all year, maybe 3. In that setting, it's if the Packers win one of their next or whatever's left of the season.
Right.
I really wonder if that actually happens, if Rodgers is actually back next year. Right? If they go 7-10, I don't know what the math is anymore. That feels a lot different than 3-14.
Right. Well, let's see here. The worst team in the National Football League between the Raiders and the Texans. Those two, between them, they've got 3 wins. The Texans only have 1 win. The Raiders only have 2. So you will just say that it stays like that. Pittsburgh also, by the way, they have 2 wins. So your top 3 would be Houston, Pittsburgh, and Las Vegas. Even the Commanders have 4 wins. Detroit has 2 wins. So they'd say at this point in time would be drafting 4th. Carolina would be 5th. That's your top 5 bad teams. So the Packers where they're at right now, if say they only get a couple more wins to finish out the season, chances are they're 7th or 8th, maybe 9th tops. They're in the top 10, right? Draft-wise? You would assume? Mark says they'll take another offensive lineman or defensive back. Oh, God, I hope not. That's a great question. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're completely in the weeds, and my apologies. We're going to step away, take a quick break, come back. More of the Bill Michaels Show. We'll wrap it up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others. I'm in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or a pirate ship or a sports-themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine, a place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers will have a light practice to install the game plan as they host the Cowboys. Dallas coming off a bye week. Aaron Rodgers says he was stunned how many of his teammates got injured during the Lions game Sunday at Ford Field.
Just in that game, we lost Rashawn Gary, Eric Stokes, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Aaron Jones. Disappointed on many levels, but there's never any concession, never any giving up. Definitely not from me, definitely not from so many of the guys that we go to battle with. We just got to find a way to get over that hump.
Rodgers on the McAfee show. Some good news, though, about rookie wide receiver Christian Watson, who actually had the wind knocked out of him against the Lions. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur.
That was not a concussion. That was all precautionary, and I think that's just kind of the times that we live in right now and with what transpired versus Buffalo, but it was 100% ruled that it was not a concussion. As a matter of fact, he was dying to go back in the game. You know, we thought it was best to shut him down, and because of what transpired in Buffalo.
The Cowboys are 6-2. Green Bay looking to end a 5-game losing streak. Packers tight end Mercedes Lewis.
This league is unforgiving. You know what I mean? It'll humble you quick, and the margin for error is small. I mean, we still got some games left. It's a playoff mentality from here. You know, can't afford to keep dropping games, so it's going to keep chipping away at it. So you can do it. Stay in the NFL.
That's Mercedes Lewis in Green Bay. I'm Mike Clemens.
Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. Final segment before we get out of here. Our buddy Steve says, oh, by the way, for those like myself that are complaining about the Christmas ads coming too early, he said, well, it could be worse. We could still be watching those political ads. Oh, my God, yes. I thank you very much. You brought me back to center. You are correct. Oh, my God. The one thing that I am completely glad about when the elections are done is the political ads. We can stop hating on one another. Tom says, if the wide receivers have a problem with Aaron Rodgers, do you think they're going to voice their opinion? Hell no. They're young rookie wide receivers that are being yelled at by a pompous, arrogant ass who puts himself, as you say, Bill, on a pedestal and looks down on other people. Aaron Rodgers may be the ultimate teammate to some, but not to all. He picks and chooses. We all know that. He rode to work with Jordy Nelson, but not with the other guys. He was with David Bakhtiari at his wedding, but not with Devontae Adams in the offseason. Devontae Adams decided to leave. Look at the past. It will repeat again and again and again. 12 is the problem. And I find that hard to believe. Look, man, I understand it because have you ever had that person that you've worked with that's really, really good at what they do, but they're just a jag? I can think of a few that I've worked with that are really good, you know, doing what I do. I've enjoyed working with certain people, you know, on the air. And the minute you're off the air, it's kind of like, can't wait to get away from that person. I've done that. I think we've all been there with somebody in our office, somebody that we worked with, some, you know, whatever it happens to be, whatever walk of life you're in. So, okay. Yeah, I can understand that. But still, you know, if you've got somebody that's truly great you're working with, you know, I don't know. I work with one guy. I did do this. I work with one guy that was well respected. I mean, loved. But behind the doors, behind closed doors, just a total ass. And if you ever just came out and said, this guy, here's all the things that he's done that are really just terrible, you know, but why? Why would you do that? You know, you kind of said hi, you did your job and you respected him and then you moved on. I don't know. I don't know what that does. I'm not going to go there and say that because I put it this way. I don't know what the young guys are saying behind closed doors. You know,
Ricky says if the young guys are upset because Rodgers wasn't there, then they need to study just a little bit harder to get on the same page with him. Rodgers has paid his dues. They have to understand it. It's probably a younger mentality. Come in and get everything handed to you rather than earn it. That is, you know what? And I'm not going to go there because he wrote that, and that's kind of the get off my lawn statement, but to a certain extent, he's right. There is a sense of entitlement too when you get your first big job. You come in, you're like, I'm king, and you haven't done anything yet. So I don't know. We'll pick up on this tomorrow. Hey, a reminder coming up tonight. We're going to be. It's the Bill Michaels Huddle, brought to you by Bud Light. We're going to be out at the Sunset Grill in Pewaukee Lake. Hope to see you out there tonight. 6 to 8 this evening. I'll be heading out there in just a little bit. Sunset Grill in Pewaukee. Great foods, drinks, lots of fun, vibrant lake atmosphere. Looking forward to it. I'm sure the patio's maybe the patio's going to be open, actually. The patio might be open just for the fact that, it's so nice outside. It's in the 60s. So we'll see you out there. Heading out to the Sunset Grill. All right, that's it.